This is an SM Media production.
Hello, folks, and welcome to episode 1 of SM Media's Road to Cheltenham 2024. I'm Scott McPike. It's an absolute pleasure to be back in the hot seat for the upcoming jump season. We are back. It's that time of year again. It's getting darker earlier. It's getting wetter. It's getting windier. That's rubbish to a lot of people, but to us four and many of you viewers, it'll be music to the ears. We're back. The jump season is back. To join me on this first episode where we're going to take a look at the upcoming jump season, it's as always my cohort in this project, from the Scottish Daily Mail. It's the one and only Calum McClurkin.
Yeah, hi there. Jump racing back. Always looking forward to it. You know, and the Cheltenham curtain raiser this weekend is always quite exciting, particularly the hurdle races. I think they look pretty good. So there's a lot to be excited about. Flat stuff at the end, you know, there's meetings being abandoned left, right and centre in there, and now they're just getting started on the jumps. So there's a lot of good prospects. Every division looks, you know, relatively competitive, and a lot of, you know, very good horses trying to defend, you know, titles such as Constitution Hill and Galloping des Champs. So it's going to be a very exciting season.
Going to be very exciting. We're looking forward to getting to all the big divisions. We thought for the first episode of the new series we would have a somewhat of a crossover between another good horse racing channel. It's a pleasure to welcome the guys from the finishing line. First of all, pleasure to welcome on Sean Dunn.
Thanks very much. Thanks for having us on. I'll jump on anytime you want to talk about jumps racing anyways.
It's brilliant. We're looking forward. And I'm very much admiring the Rich Ritchie silhouette in the background there. It's a pleasure to welcome on Andrew.
How are we, gents?
Very, very good. I'm excited about this show, by the way. Big fans of the finishing line. Calum, before we get into talking about the jump season, we have to mention the flat. A couple of minutes on the flat season. I know that.
Do we really?
Yeah, we do. We do. I just want to ask Calum his thoughts, because obviously we've kind of done some flat shows over the summer, but it has been a good season. Obviously, the kind of dominant kind of forces like Frankie Dettori. But one thing I want to ask you, we're talking about it off air. One horse that I've seen you get very excited about over the past few weeks is a certain hot 2-year-old in Ballydoyle by the name City of Troy. How excited are you about him? How impressive has he been? I
do like him. He's just done everything right. A long time. He pulled out in one of the Irish races there that was quite high class because of ground, but then he turned up in the Dewhurst and was absolutely fantastic anyway. He takes so much pulling up towards the end. I don't know what one race at in Ireland where he was like, you know, even 2 furlongs after the finishing line, he was still being like hard to pull up. When Ryan Moore thought that was quite incredible. The turbo kicked in when he made all in the Dewhurst quite nicely. I think he's potentially the best 2-year-old seen in the modern era. He could be that good. You'd expect him going to the Guineas. Ballydoyle have this kind of, they do follow the traditional lines of horse racing. They would like to maybe have a go at a Triple Crown with them. I just think with the likes of, you see like a lot of forward 2-year-olds and you think, well, that's them, they're just going to be 2-year-olds. I think he's different. I still think there's probably a lot more to come with him. And yeah, to see Ian O'Brien, you know, the Magniers, they're all excited in tandem with him. Can't even get him tired on the gallops, apparently. Now, it depends how much. It's a bit like jump stable tours. It depends how much credence you really want to put into these opinions. Seen it before with them, but Hawkwing was their highest rated 2-year-old. This guy wasn't far off it. It all depends. The legacy from 2 is determined to when they get to 3. I think he's the potential to do it all. I don't think he's a ledger horse though. But if he wins the Guineas, they'll definitely try and go Derby route with him. I think he's very exciting. He could be a future kind of. He could have an imprint on the game like, you know, Franklin and Galileo can if he keeps maintaining what he did from 2 into 3 and be one of their kind of top championship sires.
So, and Andrew, is there any kind of flat racing catch your eye, or is that kind of hibernation period for you guys?
I the same there, City of Troy. What he's been doing has been ridiculously good. Look, he done his best to bring Ryan Moore out into the M50 at Pastakura the other at the start of the season. Like, horses just don't do that. I know he went into top gear like a half furlong out, and it was hard to stop him, but this is just ridiculous. And then he done it in Newmarket on ground. Everyone said he's going to hate. He went across it with a stride pattern that you'd swear the ground was good to form. It didn't bother him in the slightest. I think he's an absolute freak. If he trains on next season, surely nothing is going to get near him.
Johnny, anything to add?
Yeah. I think this lad is unbelievable now. As Andrew touched on, like, this is him going up to the top of the current is like watching Gallop and the Champ going down the back straight of the Leopardstown when the race is over. Like, this just doesn't happen to horses. He was incredible. Even at Newmarket, you seen the big stride on him. Ryan Moore, you know the good ones. You pop out in front and he's not afraid to be taken on by absolutely anything. I think the most exciting thing for Ballydoyle is that the Galileo era is now over and they're getting this justified breed in. He could be anything. I mean, and his mother was in the Oaks. They could stretch this fella out to the ledger potentially. Looking at him, he's a massive stride, and that gear, I think the class that might carry him that far. So I'd say they're getting quite excited and can't wait to skip around to the Guineas next year.
Yeah, it does look pretty good. It gets you excited for the flat season next year when you see a horse like that. But we're here to talk about the jumps. We're going to run down all the big divisions. We'll start with the championship divisions. We'll move on to kind of like some mares, Ryanair. We'll move on to novice hurdlers, novice chasers, and then we'll go around the panel and ask a few for their kind of horses to watch for the upcoming season. Let's start with the champion hurdle division. Obviously, we kind of have the jump version of kind of City of Troy right now is Constitution Hill. Calum, he obviously was so impressive last year. 4 out of 4, wins the champion hurdle the way he does. He just gets to 177. We all thought he would stay over hurdles. We're now at the kind of stage where he's going for 2 in a row. He looks to be so far clear of everything else. What is the kind of limit for this horse? Is he just going to do the same again this year, or is there a bit more we can expect?
Well, the limit might be explored because Imperi Pass is staying over hurdles, which I think is a massive importance to this division because it gives something new. You know what he can do at State Man. He's a nice mid-160s horse. Thrashed him quite convincingly. Imperi Pass is the next challenge. You know what I mean? There wouldn't have been one if this decision wasn't taken. Willie Mullins, pointed that out, saying, "Look, somebody's got to take him on." And if Willie Mullins get 180, very high class horses in his stable, he's probably the only trainer that can afford to we could keep a top notcher back and see if we can trouble him in one way. I think he's hugely exciting. It'll be an interesting challenge. He's probably got at least a stone to find, but there's capabilities there. There's upsides to him. Constitution Hill just does everything effortlessly, and everything that he does, he makes it look easy. There was this kind of batting around the hatches with the owner and trainer, and I don't think Michael Buckley could help himself by possibly teasing that the Gold Cup route was a possibility, because he can do it all. But I think
that he wouldn't stay. Do you believe that kind of comment that he wouldn't stay the Gold Cup trip? Is that?
I think they genuinely believed it after the champion hurdle, and then they went to Aintree and they kind of saw him flatten out a little bit. Now, whether that was after the champion hurdle, he won by 3 lengths. Okay, he wasn't properly answered, but he did kind of go down the gears quite notably there. He didn't strike to me as a horse that was wanting further than that on that day. Okay, it was so easy for him. It's probably quite inconclusive, but I think that kind of cemented in their mind that we might as well stay at this trip here. He's not really crying out for it. He's got so much speed. Let's just dominate this division. I'd expect him to win, but I mean, Imperi Pass will ask a different sort of question for him. So he'll go the traditional route, fighting 5th, Christmas hurdle, maybe take another race in champion hurdle. But if Imperi Pass seems fit and he does, what he can do in Ireland, and they can try and double team him with State Man, try and get tactics involved and try and get him beat that way. And that's the only kind of question that you can ask him. But I'd be interested to see if he can emulate the likes of Estebrack and things like that, and maybe hit a 180 figure, something like that. Maybe Imperi Pass will ask that sort of question for him.
Andrew, it was very interesting when we saw the likes of kind of Imperi Pass staying over hurdles, because I think as respectable a horse as State Man is, I think he was always going to find Constitution Hill better. But as Willie Mullins kind of shown now that he doesn't have fear of Constitution Hill, he's going to try and go down the champion hurdle route with Imperi Pass, and it's obviously a route we've seen before. He's done it with likes of Faugheen in the past, of winning a Ballymore, going back and trip. Do you think he's viewing this as I can get closer to Constitution Hill, or is he viewing it as I can sweep up an island again?
I think he's seeing it as there's a gap there and we can get closer to Constitution Hill. Look, I've been controversial about Constitution Hill. Sean's the founding member of the Constitution Hill fan club, and we have arguments day in and day out about this. To me, this is one of the worst 2 mile hurdle divisions we have seen in years upon years. The same horses are turning up the last 5 years, they're getting beaten. He's just better than what's there right now. State Man, he's a good horse. I don't have him as anywhere near a top level 2 mile hurdler. To me, he's not. He's crying. He's one that is crying out for a trip. His best performance, if you go back into his novice hurdle days, was over 2 mile 4 at the Punchestown Festival, where he absolutely bolted up. To me, he's the one that's crying out for a trip. The only reason I think he's staying over hurdles is they tried him over fences and he is not able to jump. You wouldn't stick 2 of your big guns going against him. To me, Imperial Pass is a massive, massive danger. What he done in the Ballymore and in the fashion he done it to 2 very good horses was ridiculously impressive. He hit the hill, he was gone. People go on then about his run at Punchestown, where to be honest about it, he was dicking around the whole way around. And when Paul really asked him to stretch, right, lad, let's go, time to win the race, he picked up and he was gone. There is so much more to come from him. Will he beat Constitution Hill? Who knows? He has a shitload to find right now, as in what he's done so far. But the potential is there, the engine is there, and the talent is there. So, look, I think he's going to be a better horse than State Man. The proof will be in the pudding when they actually meet, and I think they'll only meet at the Dublin Racing Festival. But yeah, look, even if you go back on sort of old ratings to the champion hurdle that Honeysuckle won first time out, you go through State Man's rating that he ran to in the champion hurdle this year, you'd find State Man might clip third in that race based on ratings. I just genuinely think there's a very, very bad 2 mile division of people lauding him as the best hurdler, not even champion, best hurdler we've ever seen. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. He's won 1 champion hurdle, go off and win 2 or 3, and then we can talk about it. He's not on a level. I get bashed in comments about this and I don't care. He's not on the same level as Istabrak right now. Right now, he's not. Plain and simple. The Istabrak champion hurdles that he won are far superior than what Constitution Hill has been beaten. He's beaten horses that are way past their prime, bar State Man. That's just the plain and simple facts about it.
Sean, where do you kind of stand with that? Because I can see that argument. I mean, we look at likes of kind of State Man. I think State Man would have won kind of 4 or 5 of the kind of last 6 or 7 champion hurdles, just based on the kind of the poorness of the division in the past few years. But we do have a horse here who has shown. I mean, he's 7 out of 7 and has just looked the part. Has kind of got that high rating so far, and there's still a lot to look forward to with him. As he just leaps and bounds clear, or could there be could this be the season we maybe see something challenge him?
For me, no. I have Constitution Hill in the different stratosphere. What he's been doing since day one is just like phenomenal stuff. Like, you go back to his Supreme, that was ran at an absolute breakneck speed, went and broke a track record, went back this season, wasn't ran at too much of a gallop, and he takes her up at 2-0. You look at his races, I don't think he's so versatile. He's not one of these horses. He's just so much speed, so much pace. I've never seen a horse kick and have so many other horses in trouble, and him look like he's not even gotten into second or third gear. Like, I really, really do not think we've got to the bottom of him, and I don't think there's a horse capable of taking him to the last and putting him under serious pressure. Like, if Imperial Pass, he's to find £15 to get to him. Like, that's incredibly a lot. Like, that's a big ask you're asking to step up. You've State Man. I give State Man massive credit. I think he gets played down a little because he's getting bashed by Constitution Hill, and then people are looking and saying, is Constitution Hill that good because he's only beaten State Man? I think State Man's going to get a lot of credit this year. Imperial Pass is 160, State Man's 166. He still has to get up to him, don't forget. We can talk all we want about how good he was in the Ballymore. He's to go and prove it to us in open company now. I think the Hatton's Grace is going to be a big test. He's going to go there against Tihupu, probably on soft ground, as Tihupu wants it, and he's going to get a big test. And I think we'll find out then what he's going to be made of. I think the two of them might clash at the Dublin Racing Festival. And if you ask me here and now, if I was to have a bet, it'd be State Man currently. I think Empire Pass has to get up to his level before we can even consider getting near Constitution Hill.
Does anybody have anything else in this division like that can cause a threat? Is there anything coming up? Like, there's a few decent juveniles.
There's absolutely zero. As I said at the start, it's one of the worst 2 mile divisions we've ever seen. Well, if you get the betting up in front of you, I'll just try to find it quickly. Tuesday, like you've Constitution Hill, who's clear favourites, and you've Imperial Pass State Man. They'll go there. Lossiemount won't, Vauban won't, Marine National Land won't. In the Pocket won't, Zenta, who knows? You Wear It Well won't, Echoes of Rain won't, Buzz is retired, I Like to Move It is dead, Champ Kiley is injured, Zanny here probably when you have Ruband. Come on. That's scandalous.
Yeah. And that
if Imperial Pass doesn't turn out to be what we hope he'll be to give Constitution Hill a race at least, you'll find that one of the most under, like, what way can you describe it? One of the races you're least looking forward to at the Cheltenham Festival.
Yeah, that'd be my biggest worry now. If Empire Pass doesn't quite reach it, like, you're gonna get people bashing Constitution Hill again. I don't think he's ever gonna quite get the credit. Like, if Imperial Pass doesn't make the step, then you're gonna turn around and say he's only.
No, in fairness to it now, I really rate Imperial Pass, and if Imperial Pass goes off and beats State Man, and then he batters, and then Con Hill batters him, hands up. You've done it 3 years in a row at the same track in the championship races. Hands up, you're one of the greatest.
Do you think there's any chance that we might see one of the Irish come over before Cheltenham?
No.
The way it's mapped out, I'd be surprised, because Imperial Pass will go Hatton's Grace. You'll have State Man, he'll go Morgiana, and then they probably one will miss Christmas and go straight to Dublin Racing Festival. It wouldn't be like Willie to go and test the water with one of them now, because he sort of knows what levels he's at. He's done it with State Man. He doesn't really need to test it. It's not a fun stuff time that he's trying. Take him on.
Hey, let's move into the 2 mile chasers, and Calum, we have this debate a lot, and especially in recent years. We're always waiting for some sort of duel in this division. We thought we were going to get it a few years ago with Defi, Desoy, Shakan and Altior. We thought we were going to get it 2 years ago. Shishkin obviously blew up in that race. We thought this was the year we were going to see 2 Willie Mullen superstars against each other. Energamine is out. El Fabiolo's 11-10. And is that just where we're at this year? Is El Fabiolo just clear?
You would think so, and I think quite a lot of people were leaning towards El Fabiolo over Energamine anyway, and thinking Energamine might go up to Ryanair trip or something like that. But 2-time defending Queen Mother champion chaser should probably try and defend it 3 times. But Honeysuckle didn't do that, so it can change departments. It's disappointing, but at least the disappointment's earlier than it's not like a 24-hour stone bruise before the day or something. So you can process it in time. It makes El Fabiolo even money favourite at the moment. He was really impressive in the Arkle, in the Irish Arkle as well. It's just total, an absolute showcase of power. The only doubt I had him coming at the Arkle was the second last, where it can come quite quickly. It's not a place where you want to have a chancy jump. His jumping was chancy at times. He's bold, he's brave, he can take a risk, but see when he asked and mattered, he was huge. He was getting squeezed in that rail down the inner, in between John Boy and Dice up down one side, John Boy through the middle. There was no room there. If he get that wrong, a world of trouble. Even if he gets slightly wrong, he would have lost a lot of ground. It takes a brave and very talented horse to absolutely 3 of them at a line and just take a length out of them as well, and be in the most treacherous position there. It was a very taken win. It just catapulted him to me above Energamine just about, even going into open company. And here, he's not got that main rival to contend with. It looks like John Bond might reoppose again. If they stick to the 2 mile route, they might be inclined to do so, because it's just 1 they're taking on, probably not 2. It's there for the taking. Andrew's mentioned about the depth, the historic depth of the champion hurdle division. The champion chase has kind of been in a similar boat recently. Energamine, when they rerouted the trial race 6 weeks before it to Cheltenham, Edward the Gate and Edwardstone ran really well, but they were running as if it was a trial. They had to win that to kind of justify their place there. Energamine, they completely changed tactics on him. They had the white paint excuse out. They weren't given two bob. When his chance was done about at the last, Paul Townend sensibly eased off and say, look, this isn't a race. A race is coming 6 weeks' time, and they get a better price in the day. Tony Bloom whacks his life savings on it, and it's job done. He had such a class edge that day. It was beyond belief. So yeah, if you think El Fabiolo's as good, maybe marginally better than Energamine would win this without El Fabiolo there, and it's going to be vice versa. I think El Fabiolo should win this if he gets there. If he gets there, but maybe a bit like Constitution Hill. The danger now in playing is them getting there at the moment. I think he's potentially unstoppable. He is brave at his fences, but he gets away with it.
Sean, the thing I liked about Fabiolo last year is, remember his first chase start, he was very novice, he was very raw, but made a couple of mistakes in the Dublin Racing Festival, but just pivoted away from what looked at the time to be a really good field. Obviously, Banbridge kind of went on and franked the form, and there was a few Willie Mullins contenders in behind, but as Calum says, what he did in the Arkle, the way he kind of just put John Bond, who had got the better over hurdles on him the year before, it just showed a massive improvement in terms of his fences. And he just looks to have John Bond's number in this division, doesn't he?
Yeah, he looked to mature massively from that novice hurdle campaign, from where he went to nearly a neck and neck with John Bond to the next season. He just looked a completely different beast. I went cold on him, I'm going to be honest. The first day I seen him out, I seen that jump, and I said to myself, there's absolutely no way you could get away with doing that in an Arkle. And especially when we seen John Bond early on the season, when he was pinging everything, he was slick. I didn't think he could afford to do anything like that. But the Dublin Racing Festival, they went an absolute crazy gallop that day. They went flat out from start to finish, Dysart Dynamo, and how this lad picked them up. He hit the last one down the back, and to be able to do that and still be within them and to go away and win by 5 or 6 lengths, it was quite incredible. And as you touched on already, swinging into that second last at Cheltenham, he was squeezed in against that rail. If he didn't have it, he would have went down there and then. But he went through that, not an issue, took up the gap and went away. He was incredible that day. And then he backed up again at Punchestown. I really think it was going to be the handing over the sword. And anyways, I think he had an Ergomain's measure, the young gun coming through. Now he's out. I can't see how John Bond turns that. They seem to come back, and every time they find an excuse for John Bond when he runs poor. He gets very edgy, and I think Cheltenham probably boils him over. He came back at Sandown, putting a good performance there. But I can't forget that Arkle. They raced against each other. Hard to see that turned around, and I'd be all over El Fabiolo this season.
The problem we've got, Andrew, at this time of the year is 11 to 10 for a champion chase favourite. It's no screaming value to me, but he does look to be leaps and bounds ahead, doesn't he? Especially kind of what we saw. He did get the better of John Bond. I thought immediately after Cheltenham, John Bond would be leaning towards kind of going up and trip, maybe in the kind of intermediate. But right now, obviously, when Energamine been out, it could chance his arm again against El Fabiolo. But it does look to be a very similar story in the champion hurdle division, doesn't it?
Yeah, look, it's very similar in strength to depth to the champion hurdle. Look, El Fabiolo, he's at no backwell price 11 to 10 now. Look, come today, he will be odds on if he gets there, and I can't not see, but only Jambon, as I call him, going to this race now, because they're not going to shy away from one horse. I know they have a lot to find him. They've a good bit to find on him based on the Arkle one. Didn't jump well that day, but look, I think it was just the fact that El Fabiolo was taking him out of his comfort zone. It's very hard to get out of your head what, as Sean said, what he done in the Dublin Racing Festival. The way he went through that race, he went through like a bulldozer. He stood out like a sore thumb the whole way. He walloped like it was the third last or second last. It was like nothing had happened to him. He was straight back on the bridle. Dar Jacob gave him a squeeze and off he went. He picked up the two lads in front like they were standing still, and he went off and he bolted up. And to this day, I have no idea how I didn't go, yeah, that's the Arkle winner. No, stuck with the English thing that could jump. But it's if they all arrive there on the day, I cannot see anything getting near him. The only thing that might happen is he'll fall. That's literally the only thing that can stop him winning this. I think he's miles clear of the best. He only had one run as a hurdler. He's still green as grass. He's a lot to learn in his jumping department. And if he clicks all his jumping together, I think we could see a mastermind-esque performance in this. I think he could be that good.
Is there anything, I'm going to kind of throw this for the three divisions, is there anything at a price that is catching MD's eye? For me,
look, in this, you're going to have the tried and tested turn up here. And I think Captain Guinness is just standing there, 25, 33 to 1, an each way bet. You can see him definitely being in the top three. He's a horse that took ages to get going. He finished second, clear third to Energamy last season. Ran well again after that. Look, Henry's horses improved 10, 15 pounds for Cheltenham every year. And I think 25, 33 to 1. Vanny was looking for an each way bet. Look, you could do worse than him. He turns up in the day, he's 7, 8 to 1, I'd say.
We'll move into the Gold Cup division. This is, I think, going to be a lot more open into. I know we've got a kind of superstar at the top of the market, but we do have a good kind of British crop. We've also got a few good novices coming in as well. Calum McClurkin, obviously 2 to 1. I thought a brilliant performance last year. One of the rides of the festival, I thought, from Paul Townend. The horse, they kind of had this plan, what they wanted to do. They started him off in the John Durkin. They obviously kind of went to the Irish Gold Cup. It did take a bit of time to get into a kind of proper staying Gold Cup horse. Gets there in that race, and then in the Gold Cup, a horse like Brave Man's Game kind of gives him a test, but he just finds it in him. And this, to me, is going to be the hardest one of the three kind of big price, kind of short price, kind of big races, because there's a lot in behind that could really kind of put a test on him this year.
Yeah, there's competition here, as there was last year when he was backed in a 75 favourite. I mean, he was so strong at the off. He was backed like very rarely see a Gold Cup horse. It's backed like the feet totally out of the question. So that takes a top notcher anyway. On the horse himself, what Willie Mullins has done to completely change this horse's style of racing to be a Gold Cup winner has been fantastic. I mean, the exuberant fall, kind of the tumble, the unseat at the tunnels was, hearty. But he's learnt to race, and he's learnt to kind of conserve a bit of that fireball energy and unleash it at the right time. So to find a balance of like a really top class chaser, like not taking the total fire out that makes him so talented, but harnessing it in a way that actually, you can get the gold trip and going to the well time and time again and conserving that and it's easy to kind of spot a talent, but it's very hard to kind of go and fulfill it, and he's already done that quite well. Punchestown left a mark in him a little bit, as it did with Brave Man's Game. They both took each other on as if there were only two horses in the race, and they get mugged at the end. They were kind of suitably softened up. Fast or slow, still there. It's a good line of Grand National form with Corrick Rambler, so it'd be interesting if they two can, kind of frank that form a little bit and still make a step up come Gold Cup day. We've got Jerry Colm coming through as well. There's competition here at least, and that's why he's kind of not priced as El Fabio and Constitution Hill is. Bit of depth, longer trip, and there is that kind of wee question mark at Punchestown. Is he going to come back? And it's really hard for Gold Cup horses to continually maintain their form. Albin Photo defended his crown. I would expect Galloping Deschamps to probably do the same.
It's a pleasure to welcome on to the show the one and only Ash Symonds. Ash, welcome, mate. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, I first of all have to apologise for my lateness here. I had to run an errand for a friend, and as I went away, the road closed. So I was meant to be taken back, so I've been stuck in a mixed match of traffic. But yeah, it's good to be. Thank you very much for having me on. I'm really grateful to be here, and it's great to be talking about the jumps and with some great minds as well. So I'm looking forward to it.
It's a real pleasure to have you on, mate. We'll get your kind of immediate thoughts. We've spent a bit of time talking about Champion Hurdle, Champion Chase, Gold Cup. We're on to now. I look at this kind of division, obviously, and I've thought in recent years the King George has not been much of a Gold Cup clue. That could change this year because you get obviously Brave Man's Game going again. Shishkin could potentially, we saw in the Betway Bowl, he could be lining up to be a Gold Cup horse. where are we at with this division? Is Gallop and Deschamps just leaps and bounds clear, or do we have a kind of decent crop in behind who could kind of make the step up?
Yeah, I think it's a really good division this year. First of all, apologies for my camera; it does turn off at some point. There's some issues with my laptop, as it's just done there. But I think this division is really interesting this year because I wrote about it, I think, a couple of months ago. You've got the likes of Gallup and Deschamps in there, Brave Man's Game, these established horses in there, even the likes of those Betfair Chase winners, and that were in behind, and the horse that ran in the Gold Cup, Ahoy Senor. And then you've got coming into it this year as well. You've got the likes of the Real Wacker. You've got Korak Rambler coming in as well. You've got Jerry Colomb, and then you've even got sort of the progressing horses like Fast or Slow, who were in that open division last year, but sort of announced themselves late into the scene. I think this division's really, really interesting. I'm really looking forward to this year. Looking at the novices, look, if I was to put my heart over heads, really, I'd say that I think the Real Wacker's a good horse. But if I was thinking of my head properly, I'd say he's going to have to improve quite a lot this year to make himself as a Gold Cup contender. I know, speaking with Patrick Neville and listening to him, he thinks that the Real Wacker is just coming into himself, and he's filling out his frame a little bit. But I do still see probably there needs to be improvement there. Same goes for Jerry Colomb. I didn't enjoy the way Jerry Colomb jumped around Cheltenham in the Brown Advisory. He was losing lengths at most of his fences, and I know people will sort of give it a bit about the ride he got given by Jordan Gameford that day, but I don't think there's much else he could really do. I think he had to sit in behind, he had to let the pace come, and then he had to go again. So I think he needs to improve. I think they need to, these novices coming into it, I know it's difficult for them, and it always is time and time again, but they do need to show themselves a little bit this year, and they have the ability to do that. They're still very much on an upwards curve, but I think Galopin Deschamps, there's just something quite special about him. There's an aura, there's an aroma around him that really makes you love jump racing. And he is the epitome of why we love the jumps. He's just a brilliant, brilliant horse. The way he won his Gold Cup, you could have called it as they came around the post for the second time with a circuit to go. You said, if there's one horse that's not going to win this, it's Galopin Deschamps. He missed a couple of jumps and he was out the back of the field, but I thought he was just genuinely incredible in the Gold Cup. And look, he may have disappointed slightly at Punchestown, but Fast or Slow did decide to capitalise a little bit that day, and Fast or Slow is not a bad horse in himself. The connections around that horse have always stated they think he's a really, really smart horse. So look, I think this division's amazing. If I was to nail my colours to the mast now, I'd probably say Galopin Deschamps goes on again and does the business, because I do think he's just a smashing horse. He's the type of 3 mile chaser you'd love to own, you'd love to have. If you could build a 3 mile chaser from scratch, it would be him. So if I think colours to the mast, I'd say Galopin Deschamps for me, and yeah, for sure.
Andrew, what do we kind of think about this division? We've got a lot of really good horses, the likes of a Corrick Rambler, Lahome Presses to come back as well. They could put in some kind of big markers at the start of the season, and it could just turn into be a kind of big contest when you've got such a favourite who's done so well last year. How do you bridge that gap between Gallop and Deschamps in the field?
You grow an extra leg. That's about the 2 ways if they've any chance of beating Gallop and Deschamps in a Gold Cup. Look, we can paint it as much as we want that these novices are coming in, they're this, that, and the other, X, Y, and Z says this about himself and herself or whatever. That was probably the best Gold Cup performance we've seen since a quarter star. And probably one of Willie Mullins' best training performance I've ever seen since I started watching racing. To get a horse like Gallop and Deschamps, you said to me this time last year before Gallop and Deschamps came out and won his first race that they are going to drop him in behind the pace. He's going to switch off. He's going to look like he's half asleep, and he's going to pick up and go away. I'd laugh at you, because this fella went from a tearaway to racing like a puppy. He just goes there unnoticed. He pops away, and then when Paul flicks the switch, it's like you're watching Fast and Furious and sitting and they press an OS button and he's just gone. This thing is an absolute freak of nature. There's going to be some unbelievable performances to get even near him. Look, people go on about Punchestown. Oh, he got beat by Fast or Slow. Yeah, but you go to Punchestown, you go to Aintree, you can have 2 hands, you count the amount of horses that won at Cheltenham that went on to be beat. Quarter Star got beat, Denman got beat. You have loads of them get beat after that. That's their pinnacle. Cheltenham is where they are trained to peak. And they don't get asked to do anything until they go there. The trainers go, we'll give him a little stretch, we'll give him a little canter gallop, and we'll go there and see how we get on. It's the end of the season party. And if he wins, he wins. He don't, he don't. Willie Mullins, I think, has the Gold Cup down to a T now. He knows how to train the horses properly. He knows how to look after them. He's done it with Albon 4, so he's has a key to it. And I think with Galloping, he has the horse that's capable of doing it again. You have to remember, Galloping is still a very young horse. He could be around for the next 2-3 years on top of this. But look, away from Galloping, who I think personally will take something extraordinary to beat him. We have the likes of Jerry Colomb. We start with Jerry Colomb, the real whacker. Look, you run this race, take Galloping the Champ out of the race, and you give me Jerry Colomb, the real whacker, over 3 Mile 2. On the new course at Cheltenham, I will have every cent I have that Jerry Colomb will finish more than 6 lengths in front of him. On the track on the Gold Cup course will suit Jerry Colomb a lot more than will suit the real whacker. I think the real whacker would not get the Gold Cup trip. He was gasping for air in the RSA. It was half of stride past the line and Jerry Colomb was past him. Look, I think Jerry Colomb himself, I think he's one of the most underrated horses in training. He's only ever been beat once. He's run in 4 Grade 1s last year. He's won 3 and he was second a short head in another. And one was over 2 Mile 4. And people call him a slow boat to China and all this jazz. I think the Gold Cup trip is going to bring out the best in him. I think he's going to be second best of the lot. I think Brave Man's Game, the stats for horses finishing place going again the season after are not great. So everything you see about Gold Cup horses that are finishing place are not great for a win purpose. Look, he's at a backable 12-1 price each way. His blue ribbon event is going to King George. If you pack against Brave Man's Game and the King George, you want to have your head checked. I got it checked after I said it last season, and I'm glad I've come around. But that's going to be his Gold Cup. Look, he ran a massive race and he ran a massive race again at Punchestown, but I think Calum McClurkin just has his measure, plain and simple. Yeah, but I can't see the likes of Cork Rambler getting up to another level to getting into a Gold Cup picture. It's all right win a Grand National, the Gold Cup. That's a big step again. Very good horse, good Cheltenham 4, but I think it's still a massive step. Fast or slow as well. Calum McClurkin will lap him in the Gold Cup. The Home Press Day is an interesting horse, but how much ability will he retain after an injury? You know how hard it is for a horse like that to come back. But yeah, look, I'm at the ranting on there for a few months. I think Calum McClurkin, all being well, he'll beat a lot of these again. I think Jerry Colomb will do a lot better than people expect this season.
Going away, anything to add in this division?
Yeah, look, the lads have pretty much covered it all. I think it has to be said yet again, the Willie Mullins training performance, he definitely gave himself a pat on the back after Cheltenham, because what we've seen from this lad the season before to what we've seen in the John Duncan, I think everyone's jaw was on the floor when we seen the John Duncan, how he just settled quietly, popped around like a mouse. If anything, I think the Gold Cup, you were very worried after the first lap. I think his jumping was a bit sketchy. If he's to clean that up again, like you're talking, it probably went the worst way possible for him. In that Gold Cup.
Third favourite in the Gold Cup after the first lap. If you
did he?
Yeah. Yep, he went.
Why wasn't I on my phone?
Was that a Hoyson Yaw that was favourite, Calum? Did we look back? I think a Hoyson Yaw was sitting at favourite at one point in that race.
Hoyson Yaw was
the traders must have been also having a few pints of Guinness when that happened.
It was sad because he did look kind of out of it at the start, and then he did kind of just creep into it.
He did, like he ended up ghosting and he was out the back. Like there was a good couple of horses in front of him and he's popping around making a few silly mistakes. 3 out, he sort of hit as well. But like the confidence Paul Townend was coming into the bend, like he pulled him 3 or 4 horses wide. He knew what was under the bonnet. He had absolutely no worries going down. And I think he knew when he eyeballed Brave Man's Game going to the last, he knew what was under the bonnet. He was potentially going to outstay him all the way up that hill. You've touched on them all. I'm not too keen on the novices from last season. I think Jerry Colomb and the real whack, I think, would be a horse I'd be interested to drop back down to the Ryanair. I think if given a bold ride off the front and there, I think he might have a say in that race in a wide open renewal. Jerry Colomb, I'm just not sold on. I think he might be found out this season. I want to see him tested. I mean, there was talks of him going to Betfair. Now he's not. He looks like he's going to go to Down Royal. So I'm already up in the air about him. I think if he was good enough, he probably would have sent him to Betfair. Brave Man's Game. He looks like he's wandering out a little bit of a price now. not to beat Galvin, but like you're talking 12-1 each way. He's probably the angle that you're looking at second best. Shishkin, God knows what Shishkin's going to turn up. After the first fence when he's jumped, he's too hot and cold for me. He's not a horse that you could be backing. You need to watch him jump the first. I think the King George this year is going to be where he's found out. Brave Man's Games playground. I think
you couldn't have him with his jumping around a place like Kempton against a horse like Brave Man's Game. He'd be gasping for air down the back straight when the lads are gone off.
Yeah,
like
I cannot believe that they're thinking about sending Brave Man's Game to Haydock.
Oh no,
that doesn't make sense to me.
I think Paul Nicholls probably said that in the spur of the moment, and now he's realising that Charlie Hall is coming around a lot more now. But then the handicap, like you've Corrick Rambler going up, you see him with Noble Yates. The difference between the Grand National and the Gold Cup is massive. We've seen it, so I'd have to say Gallop in the shop. It's hard to see it turn around. Like we'll see, get him out. I'd say he'd probably go the same route this year. John Durkin, he might skip Christmas, Dublin Racing Festival 2 runs, and we'll have him spotting the day for the Gold Cup.
Yeah, I think that's what will happen as well. But we'll move into a division that maybe doesn't have as much quality, but it's certainly a lot more open. It is the 3 mile hurdling division. Now, this division looked quite it was going down a similar route until Willie Mullins pulled his kind of wee bingo. Yeah, I mean, there's probably about 6 or 7 times later on we'll talk about this, but Gaelic Warrior looks to be going over fences. It's left the Stairs hurdle division wide open. Tia Hoopu leads a kind of market at 5-1. You've got a lot in behind who we don't really know what their targets are. But Ash, we'll start with you in this. The Stairs hurdle division, it's never, in the past few years, it's not screamed quality, and it could be a similar story this year.
Yeah, it's a shame, really, because I suppose when you sent over the notes right at the start when we talked about this, you said, "Oh, Gaelic Warrior's penciled in there. Is he the real deal?" And the simple answer could have been yes, and we move on. I love Gaelic Warrior. I think he's a fantastic horse, and look, they've probably made the correct decision going over the fences. They'll know what he's been doing at home, so they're not going to be making a silly choice there. Look, it's a division that's just, if you want to have a bet at this stage of the year for the Cheltenham Festival, you'd probably be looking into this one and trying to find something. Tiupu last year, he's a horse who I like quite a lot, but I think he disappointed me a little bit last year. The way he won and beat Honeysuckle at the start of the season, I thought, this is the real deal. We've got a horse to be excited by. And then when he went and followed up by bolting up next time out, I thought, this is the horse. I tried to get which way around him for the Stayers, and I just couldn't get away from him. And in the Stayers, I think he was slightly unlucky. I think the ride, if maybe there was another time over, I think he could have had potentially a different ride, and potentially things could have gone better and more towards his way. Like Cider Burley, he's just an absolute warrior of a horse. Like they're coming around the Thames years, stepping up into the staying Earl division, and then doing the same at Aintree. He's just an absolutely wild one that you would like to see, and I'd like to see if any of the lads have any other suggestions, really, because you don't know at this stage, and unless something's said in the stable tour, but you'd like to see a horse that's coming from the Brown Advisor, from the Albert Bartlett, and they stay over hurdles. That would be nice. Like you'd look at potentially something like Apple Away. Like if she didn't take very much to fences, she could be an interesting one as well. Maximilian looks like a horse who is quite a warrior in the way that he won his River Don, then went and finished second at Aintree. But again, you're talking about these horses, and you're just, is it really getting the juices flowing? Not particularly, So you'd probably be more inclined to look down that route of Tiupu, who's probably going to be quite good here. Who's the horse that Gordon Elliott's keeping over hurdles? Is it Irish Point as well? Point. Yeah, like if he stays the trip, like I'd have Irish Point as a leading contender here, but you don't know if he's going to stay. I'd have it down as he's more of a stayer than a speed horse anyway. Personally, from my viewing, I thought when he was beaten by Marine Nationale at the start of last season, I thought he was just done for a little bit. He tried to use his staying power from the front, and he just got done at the end by Marine Nationale, who's obviously a bit of a monster of a horse. If he stays the trip, I say Irish Point's probably quite a leading horse in this division, because we all probably think, and we all probably know, the Aintree hurdle is going to be probably his target for the season. Irish Point, 2.5. Track he knows well. That will be the big red markers in the Gordon Elliott handbook already. But if Irish Point stays the trip, I'd be interested by him for the Stayers this year. Irish
Point's one I quite like as well. There's another one I want to touch on later. Sean, I was willing to put down Sire de Berley's win last year in the Cheltenham, as we remember the Thursday being an absolute mess of a day. Nothing was coming off, and I was like, right, I'm willing to put that down as just a kind of old horse getting the best. It's when he won at Aintree after that, I was like, right, this division isn't up to much if he's done the double. So, Sean, I think this race is scheming out for a horse to really take it by the scruff of the neck. Oh,
Sorry about
there
that.
we go.
You hit the nail on the head right there. If you asked me at the start of the season, probably would have given you 1,000,000 to 1 that Sir de Bourlays was going to go on and do that stairs and Aintree double. Like, no one could see that coming from anywhere. And as you said, Gaelic Warriors being taken out here. Ash has mentioned Irish Point there. There's talks that he's definitely staying over hurdles, stepping up the 3 miles. We don't know. We probably find out at Christmas time. He's one of the outsiders. And another one that I picked up on was one that was an absolute blot, I think, for the Pertemps last year. Shoe First of Charles Burns. He was a proper Charles Burns handicap job now going in here. He was rocking up our October time and put away for 5 months nearly until the Cheltenham Festival. Like, that screams blot all over it for me. He's coming back in this season. He's still at that workable mark. He's still in the 130s. Who potentially might get him into like a fourth and go for attempts again. But he's the sort of horse that I'm looking at the moment. Outsiders, they had the French one, Cheltenham, who gave the English a good whack in that Auteuil in France. It's a bit of a funny time of the year for the English and Irish horses going over, but at the end of a long season, the French horses can look good. And you seen last season, I know Gold Tweed came over and won the trial, but yeah, again, when you went into the stairs, like, a bit of a question mark with Roy. But
the jockey should be.
Yeah, a bit.
I think he is yet to be found after Cheltenham.
A big question mark on that, Roy. But that's sort of what you're looking at. Like, Callum is round to the same levels as the UPO and RPRs. They both run to the same level, but it is screaming out for someone. And normally you look and say, what has Willie got? But with Gaelic Warrior gone now, it's like you look at the stable tours and they're saying, so Gerhard, he's not someone that scream out to me. So it's a bit of a wide open division. I think it's going to be, if Tehupu is probably going to lead it for most of the year. Like, and I'd say the market won't really take shape until a couple of months in. Like, we could be at Christmas and none of us could be the wiser of what's going on.
Calum, this is the moment I've been waiting for 3 years. We no longer have a flooring porter to discuss as the kind of front runner for this race. Where are we at now with this division? To me, you've been one that's liked Tehupu for a while. Were you kind of coming round to him as this could be his kind of time to step up?
I thought he was unlucky in it last year. There was question marks about him, going to Cheltenham ground, a little bit of the trip. I thought he probably should have won. Ride wasn't the greatest, bit interference, and he's young enough to improve again. So I did nick a bit of the price on the same day that Gaelic Warrior was switching. I think 10s into 6s now, but I mean, that was just, that's the kind of level of thievery that you need to be to get some sort of price in these markets these days. You say there's no flooring porter, what's to say, if Saturday doesn't go correctly, he's back here again.
Would you back him if he did that?
He's 40 to 1 right now.
Yeah, I just looked on the exchanges. He's 55 to 1. You'd probably find worse shots if he was not to go right on Saturday.
Do you know what that returns? That returns 0.
There's a lot of these things. I mean, you've got novices coming up here. You've got your 3 mile division, which seems fairly average, and you'll have some novice chasers that will think, this division's a bit hot. They have the choice of going back to hurdles, one way or the other. If they're not good enough over fences, or if it's going wrong, they can go back here. So it's filled with so many pitfalls. And that's why Tehupu thinks the one saw the market. He's going to come back here. I think Gordon Elliott was in disbelief about which one won. After like 2 minutes, he was like just open mouthed in the paddock, trying to explain what happened. Amazed Tehupu got beat. Amazed Sarda barely won. But we go back to Flooring Porter. He's been the constant pace angle in these races for years. And it's no. I mean, Sarda barely wins because he's the strongest stayer. Aintree, he's getting the same price. He was being shoved along after about 3 flights. He wins because he stays. He won that race because he was the only one that saw it out. It is, it's a real test of stamina, particularly when Flooring Porter's then being pressed by Dashel Drasher and horses like that, and he's not there now. So they might actually go a sensible pace here, and you might get a kind of more conventional result, and they might stop beating each other. Maurice Rock breezed into it last at Aintree and didn't stay. The stiffer track's probably going to find it out again there. Rich Richie's colours, Gaelic Warrior going fences. Does that mean Monkfish stays over hurdles and he can keep him sound? Anyway, he had a really good big kind of reappearance run from nowhere where he worried Aston Fallons quite well, and then he took another backward step. He seems to me that he can only keep him sound over hurdles and really soft ground. If those conditions prevail. You know, at least you've got one kind of body of evidence that he can come back. He's done it before where he likes the classical dream, you know, and stamina really is the only reason he get beat over 3 miles at Cheltenham. That won't be the reason that Monkfish would get beat. He's only 9, going 10. Yeah, he's a bit sound. But, I mean, in a division that's lacking a superstar, the one that really could have been won, you know, was him. He's a bit forgotten about 33-40s, but yeah, he will need everything to fall out. He's either going to be much shorter if he goes, or he's not going to go at all. So, but I mean, if you're betting at 33-40 to 1, you can kind of afford to kind of play that way. He's on the outside radar of things, I would say.
I kind of go with Ash and Irish Point. I think if he steps up, I would be surprised if they went with both Tiahupu and Irish Point for the Rob Kerr went and Gordon went for the both horses in the one race. So I would be unsure if they kind of set that up. The one I like, Andrew, that I'm kind of coming to, just looking at his kind of performances over the summer, is the French one.
I be honest, I haven't seen this French one yet. That's been the God's honest truth. It's the first time I heard of it since Sean talked about it there. But French horses in general, when they come, I think, what was the last one? Barracuda?
Yeah.
That actually done something of note in one of these races. I couldn't be having him. Like that gold tweet one last year. And I think he was nearly backed into the favour on the morning or something. Yeah. There was a ridiculous amount of money from my own stage. Like, what the hell is going on here? The whole France gone on this thing. Because I couldn't see whatsoever why or how this thing is going.
Did they not pay a big supplementary fee to get him in as well?
Yeah, they did, yeah.
Yeah, and I think the jockey is still trying to pay it back after the balls of ride he gave the thing. But look, I still don't think he would have won. I just don't like Tiahupu, but there's something about him I just can't take him. I was at Gorham Park when he won the Galmoy, and what he done after the line, we were talking about City had tried to start for us and found it near on impossible to pull him up. This fella stopped straight after the line. There was no little trotting down to a stop. It was literally bang, stop. I don't like that. If you want, and the fact that then he went to Cheltenham, and if you can't beat a Sire de Burley and a Dashel Drasher, if you're the next stair hurdles, what makes you think you're going to, like, I know he's young enough, but you should be winning that at that age with everything else going for you. If we go back to the Gallimore, he's only beaten the Somerville boy, who his best days are well behind him. And I just can't. There's something about him I just don't like. Look, one who I kind of lashed onto last season out of nowhere, and who, in my opinion, if you go back and watch the race, arguably could have won the race, and that's Home by the Lee. I think he's 33-1 right now. I think he's an absolutely ridiculously massive price. He came back last year. He beat Bob Ollinger over 2 mile 4, where he looked like going out in the first circuit he was going to get pulled up. But he ended up being Bob Ollinger, who was drilled to the nines to win that race first time up the season to see what's left under the bonnet. Yeah, Grant, people could say 28-1. He was 66-1 in the morning. Grant, that was a bit of a fluke. We'll see what he's like the next time. Went off to Leopardstown for the Christmas hurdle, grade 1. Won. I say how we liked. He won going away. He beat Ashdale Bob, who was a grand marker for these kind of races. 4 Porters in behind, Bob Ollinger, Salyer, Commander Fleet. Sire de Burley was pulled up in this, and here was pulled up in this. And then you roll on to Cheltenham. He was travelling so well until he made a mother and a father of a mistake throughout. And he went from 3rd or 4th to near last. And then he still only ended up being beat 3 and a bit lengths. If he didn't make that mistake, he would have been banged there. And I forget what he done at Aintree. What happened there? That effort he'd done to get back into that race at Cheltenham was massive. I think he's been massively overlooked just based on what he'd done before the year before last season. He hasn't really done anything up to that point. He mixed it over hurdles, he mixed it over chases. I think they found a key to him, keep him out wide from horses, give him all the space in the world he needs. And the further he goes, the better he goes. I think he's been massively overlooked, and he'd be one I'd definitely be on the side of. But the one Ash touched on as well, Irish Point, I would be very interested in him if he steps up and trip. What he done at Aintree was like suddenly the pennies after dropping. I know what I'm doing now. And if he goes there, I have him a good bit clear to Tiahupu.
It's going to be an interesting division. We'll move into another interesting division, which is the kind of Ryanair division. This is obviously difficult because you could have horses like the likes of obviously Allaho, who's coming back. You've got the likes of Banbridge. John Bond could make the step up. There's Canel Fabiolo. You'd be surprised if he went there. Sean, speaking of kind of Allaho, obviously we didn't see him last year. I think we all got a wee buzz when we saw he was back in full training and looks to be back to his best. Do we think he could just be the type of horse that could just go and kind of dominate this division again? Because there's nothing really stood out. I mean, Envoy Allen won it last year, but I think that was more a kind of comeback story. I don't see Envoy Allen doing it again.
Yeah, like if you ask me now, this would be one of my highlights of the year if these could get Allaho back now. Like if we could get Allaho back to 80% of what he was, I think he'd have a right chance of going in this. I was down in Willys at the start of May, and this is probably one of the best looking horses you'll ever see. He's an absolute juggernaut. I wouldn't be surprised now if he gets turned over the first day. I'd say it'd be a fact-finding mission. They won't be going to emptying out him, and anyways, going to Clonmel. I think they mentioned the target. They won't be going to bottom him out there, but I'm hoping to see the spark. If the spark is still there and he's going out jumping and probably the engine hits zero and he gets a bit tired after the last, I'll be okay with that. I wouldn't want to see him pulled up or finished out the back of the telly. Other than that, it's wide open. I know Andrew's keen on Banbridge. And that's sort of the way you look at nearly the market when you're taking guarantees. Like Allaho's an if button maybe, so you sort of start from Banbridge, and it's looking weak, to be quite honest with you. It's looking a wide open, and I was on a horse that I was looking at the start of the season, conflated at possibly being dropped back down if he's not good enough at the 3 mile level. I know Gordon Elliott has thrown out the cross country trace, and that sort of put me off a little bit. But I think it's open for a horse to drop back down from a Gold Cup and potentially a real whacker who might not cut it at that level, but could be banging there in the middle of a Ryanair.
Andrew, Sean says you're interested in Banbridge. What do you think? Do you think he could be that kind of horse who's kind of finally found his trip?
Yeah, look, he's a horse that I'd like going forward. He's one of Martin Pipe, they've thrown up a lot of good winners like Calum McClurkin, Sire de Champ, they've thrown up loads of good winners. Don Poley, the likes of that. It's a race that I like to delve into when I go and looking at chases for the future. Last season, he's had a good season. He's beat Indigo Breeze, who after that ended up being a half a length behind the real backer at Cheltenham November meeting. He beat Tommy's Oscar at the November meeting himself by 6 lengths from the front, jumped impeccably. Then he went off 11-4 for the Drimmore at Fairyhouse, where the ground went totally against him. He ran on well. He was beaten fair and square by Mighty Potter and Galliard Demesny, 2 better stayers on the day. Then you go to the Arkle, Novice Chase at Leopardstown. You go and watch that race. You go to the home turn and you see how far back he is. He's at least 10, 15 lengths off the 3 lads in front, and he still gets up to get appreciated on the line. That to me screamed out, 2 mile 4 is what he wants. He went on to Aintree and won the manifesto with a very good round of jumping after he warmed up. I done a piece on our show. I went through his jump, and I think it was the first 4 or 5 where he was just left to his own and he just got in tight, popped away. But when JJ7 got down into him and asked him for a jump, it was ping, 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 ping. And then I delved back into the Ryanair. If you go back to the Ryanair, the actual horses that have won the Ryanair, they either have been front runners or have been just sat in behind the pace. As a ridiculously good record for them kind of horses, set the pace, kick on, and it's very hard to catch then. I think he has a massive chance. I think he's a big price. I think he could have a really, really good season ahead of him. But look, if we talk about the elephant in the room, and he's as big as an elephant, and he's the apple of my eye, I absolutely adore Allaho. I'd have him as my top 1 horse. I just love him. If he comes back, as Sean said, 80% of what he is, he should be still picking these fellas up off his back, dropping them at the 3 furlong pole, go back up to the top of the hill, and still beat him. He's like, I know he's had a season off, and you would say how much ability does he retain and so on and so forth. But this is not a good division per se. Look at last year's winner, Envoy Allen, he's going on 10 now. It's kind of a stat I want to stay away from. 10-year-olds and grade 1s, I don't want to have him really. Like if you even go back to the Gold Cup he won at Punchestown. He beat Clanders-Ovo, 2-time King George winner. He beat Alban Fogo, 2-time Gold Cup winner. Ken Boy, grade 1s to 4 grade 1s to name. Fakir Dudari, grade 1s. Galvin at Savage Chase. Tornado Flyer, King George. Mela Indo Gold Cup. Janidal Powers Gold Cup winner. And he made them look like handicappers. Myself and Dave were up there watching this, and I think we stood in the same spot for about 3 minutes after with our mouths like that. What the hell have we just watched? It was like Pegasus with wings going around the place. It was ridiculous. If he has any sort of ability like that, Paul gets him out in front and he's just like, see you later, lads. I'll see you in the parade ring. But as Sean said, that's a lot of if and buts and maybes. He has to get there. He has to get over, see how that internal bleeding is left on him. But he still looks big as a bull, and I can't wait to see him.
Ash, it's interesting because we are looking at Allaho as if he can get back, he could take all the beating here. But is there anything coming through? I mean, you look at like a Stage Star, obviously winning a turn. There's My Drogo. There's been a lot of positives. Anything kind of jumping out at you as a contender here?
I thought Banbridge was the one personally to potentially step up. Like Andrew sort of just quickly went to there. You know, his form stacks up really nicely, and there's not really much of a run in there which you have no excuses for. You know, that running the Drinmore behind Mighty Potter is quite paramount that this horse needs better ground. And that day it was quite slow, and Mighty Potter is a very good horse. Just went past him, and you can pretty much write off that race. The Irish Arkle, it was over 2-1. He's staying on the line. Obviously, a massive eye catcher. Everyone's seen it. You know, it'd take the next door neighbour to have a look as well, and he's right there, staying on the line. And then the one he's done at Aintree is quite incredible. When he won at Cheltenham in November, I don't think I've seen a horse jump a fence as quickly and as efficiently as he does. He looks, if you watch it from a camera, it looks like he sort of flings himself at the fence and then he lands and he goes galloping away. But where I watched the race at Cheltenham, it's like pretty much in line with the last fence. And the way he jumped it, my word, he jumps it like a 2-miler, a proper 2-miler, and the way he just gets from A to B so quickly, so efficiently. I absolutely love the way he jumps. And I thought, you know, if Allaho was to maybe take a backseat role this year, potentially how he comes back, then I thought Banbridge was the obvious one for me. Stage Star is an interesting horse. Obviously, a Grade 1 winner over hurdles. Now a Grade 1 Novice Chase winner, beating Mighty Potter, which is, you know, I'd have that as good form though. Mighty Potter that day, he just went out like a light. Unfortunately, it was you come around the bend. Davy's got a double under, and you're thinking, you know, you're collecting, and then he asks and he doesn't deliver. Potentially something was awry there. But Stage Star, you know, you have to give him full credit. But would he be able to get the run of a race kind of like that in a Ryanair? Say we have a hypothetical situation where the real whacker does come back to the Ryanair and he makes it out in front. Stage Star's also in there as well. Could you do the same as what he did in the Turners? Probably not. So I'd have it with Banbridge. Also, I think the real whacker, just quickly on him, I don't see really any situation he goes back to the Ryanair. I think he's a stayer all over, and I think in his Brown Advisory victory, it was fairly deplorable conditions at the start of the day, and I think he was just looking for someone there at the line, because if you actually watch past the line, he's pretty much upside Jerry Colom, if not a nose and head about 10 strides after. So I think he's a bit more of a stayer than a Ryanair horse personally. I say he's more likely to get beaten the length of the straight in the Ryanair than he is in the Gold Cup. Look, with Allaho, 7-1's there. You know, 7-1's there. If someone's got if someone's got a big trousers department, they can go straight in there for 7-1. You know, like if it's the internal bleeding, you don't know how much it's going to have an effect on him. And if there's one man to do it, like Sean said, really it is Willie Mullins. You know, he's done it time and time again. And you know, I was there at Punchestown when he won the Irish Gold, when he won at Punchestown, beating the likes of Clanders-Ovo, beating all of these Grade 1 winners, and I was pretty much like Andrew there. I stood there in awe after the race, thinking this is just quite an incredible performance we've seen. You know, one of the best renewals of that race we've seen in a while, and Allaho's made him look like handicappers. So if he's back to his best, then I don't think there's much of a conversation really around the Ryanair. But if he's not, if we get to a state in January where he's having time off again, then that would be a shame. But the horse to pick it up, probably in my eyes, is Banbridge.
Callum, you've been a fan of Banbridge for a while. I remember last year we did the big lucky 15 that we do at the start of every year, and you'd Banbridge lined up for the Arkle. And he's that kind of horse, obviously. Like, he finished second in the Irish Arkle. Would have, if the ground was better, would have probably contended in the Turners, and then goes on and does it at Aintree. Is he the kind of biggest threat to Allaho?
I think he's the novice that you look at to kind of make the step up in an open division. Envoy Allen won it, and Shishkin was second. They were the only horses really that you could rely on running close to 160 figures. The Envoy Allen bounced back and kind of showed some decent form, and Shishkin needed a bit further and was a bit sleepy through. It's just a division that's made for somebody to go back and dominate it. And you look at Allaho and Banbridge as probably your two best bets. It's all about Groundby Banbridge. I mean, if it's too soft, then he won't go. He's a very clean, efficient jumper. I've even his hurdle days were back to when in the Martin Pipe. He just never makes a mistake. I think you can put him anywhere. He's just very comfortable, and that's why he's kind of easy to like. He's just very efficient, and he's a 2.5 miler. They were kind of trying to figure out, where to go with him. His novice jumping days, did he quite have the pace or 2 miles? He didn't have that in Irish Apple, but he was staying on quite well, 2.5, and then he sensibly swerved to Aintree. I think he's a solid candidate. He's rated 155. I think he's only got about £10 to find to kind of be a genuine win contender here, and he still looks pretty progressive to me. So he's the one that I've fallen down on at this stage. On Allaho, bleeding the spleen, coming back. You can all say about if he gets back 70, 80, 90% fit, he'll win this, which he probably will. The way he races, he's either going to be back or not. I don't think there'll be an in between with him. He's all in. He goes from the front, bang, bang, bang. It's all very mechanical. It's all power. The engine. It's either going to be, revved up to the maximum, or it's not going to be there. I think that's the big kind of danger with him, because I think you'll know quite quickly if you're onto something or if you're not with him. So I think while there's huge upside because it's a weak division, and if he does get back to that level, all of a sudden you're probably talking like El Fabiolo prices, Galtman Champ prices here. If it's not, he's gone, and that's the kind of where you're at. Stage Star won a dreadful Turners. You get a freebie up front. It was kind of found out in Aintree. Paul Nicholls says some of them were over the top that day, but I mean, he just get the total run of the race, and he was the one that benefited from it. But it is Cheltenham form over 2.5 miles. He merits some sort of respect in that regard. And Sanois has been a massive price as well. In line with Banbridge, he's got some high class place form in the day, champion hurdles and things. Only a length and a half behind. Banbridge readily pulled out more. But if you've got all these pace angles potential in here, St. Mark can creep into it. He kind of picked up some of the pieces in the Arkle last year. I think he was probably cried enough towards the end of the season. But he's not a bad operator. At least he's got kind of a figure in there that he can translate, and it makes him a bit of a player. So he has been clipped in from 50s into 33s, probably in a line with Banbridge. So those are the two I would be looking at against the field.
We'll group the mares in together before we talk about novice hurdlers and novice chasers. We'll start with the mares hurdle before we had news today, obviously, that Impervious looks to be out for the season. It's a bit of a kind of bummer. But mares hurdle, we saw probably the best mares hurdle we ever saw last year, Andrew. Lossiemouth, obviously coming for the juvenile division so well. Gallagher is another one. Ashrow Diamond, a horse that skipped Cheltenham, would look really impressive at Punchestown, I think, or Fairyhouse, I think it was. Mullins could just be kind of getting back to dominating this division again with these three. Oh, we've got mute button. Mute again.
Sorry.
Yeah,
it looks like that. It looks like Willie has every card you want in this. He's a top 3 in the bet, and he's Lossiemouth, he's Ashrow Diamond and Gallagher. So look, Lossiemouth stepping up 2 mile for. There's a lot of people saying, oh, she won't do it. She's done too much in the mares now, or the Triumph and so on and so forth. I think she'll appreciate the trip no end. Like if you go to the Triumph hurdle, there's a long run from the second last to the last, and Stayers kind of win this race, and I think she's short enough now. She's 3-1 for a juvenile coming into open company. I would have a massive problem with that if it was a juvenile going into open company against geldings and whatnot. I wouldn't have her, but the fact that she's going in against her own sex, I would give her I'd give her quite a good chance. I know Sean really likes Ashrow Diamond. I'm not really sold on her. I know she bolted up at Fairyhouse, but it's the end of a season. She's beating horses that were at Cheltenham. The horse that was in second, you couldn't throw her into any race at Cheltenham. Let's be honest about it. She's a decent mare in her own right, but I think she still needs to find it with Lossiemouth. Back and forth about it. As of now, I wouldn't take the price 3-1 on a mare's hurdle right now, given the if and buts with the top three in the market, because they're all coming in from a novice campaign. But on what she done last season, I think there's a lot more to come from Lassie now, and it looks like we're not going to see her till after Christmas because Woody wants to give herself and Gallagher so an easy time of it. So yeah, look, I keep the powder dry until probably the day of, until we see what actually has trained on, if Lossiemouth has stepped forward again, because we've seen the last year with Vauban, again with the 4-year-olds going into the 5-year-old season, they find it very hard to cut it at the top. But yeah, she's a worthy favourite on what she's done. Is she a betting proposition right now? Not a hope in hell. But yeah, as the season go on, it'll take a lot better shape, because I'm sure Willie has something in the corner open close something that we don't even know who it is. He probably doesn't even know the name of it. That could be a horse that will come out of nowhere. But yeah, Lossiemouth as of now, worthy favourite.
Calum, the juvenile division last year was interesting because we did see Gallimasso beat Lossiemouth and then Lossiemouth reversing the form with it at Cheltenham. But Gallimasso put in a serious performance in France, and then you've got the likes of Ash Diamond coming in. This is very interesting, and I want to kind of get your thoughts on Lossiemouth kind of stepping up in trip. Do you think who do you think's kind of best out of these three, and is there anything kind of below that you kind of like the look of in this race?
It's interesting that the last year it was like probably the best mare's hurdle ever run, and the top three of the market are all stepping up into this division now. Automatically, your betting instinct says take them all on. But I mean, Lossiemouth, she was the finished article from a long way out all season. She was very forward. Paul Tennant had to go when he had to on her that day. She was travelling so well. It's whether she can improve into this open company in her own sex. But I do think that Willie Mullins has been very sensible, keeping both of them later on. I think a lot of people were kind of expecting Gallimasso to gradually get closer and closer and closer. She didn't get a great run at Triumph. The prices have now reflected that. I mean, she's been clipped into single figures as well now, and Ashwood Diamond's a good solid one, that's probably rightfully in between them in the market. So I can't argue their placing, and I can't argue their pecking order. And as Andrew says, I'd probably wait. Love Envoy seems to be back on track. She was a pretty good second. Her and Honeysuckle did get the run of the race. They went ridiculously slow and were ridiculously unchallenged, and then they just went away and gone down the home straight. Everyone else was sleeping in behind. Echoes and Rain is always a horse that interests me, but Patrick Mullins is going to ride her, 2 fences off the pace or whatever. So I mean, he's going to stay on and finish 4th or 5th again. It's a predictable story. It's just ridiculous. You can actually just see what's happening at the start and go, put her in a race, please. It's mad. You wear it well, when the mare's novices quite well in the 20s. She's not entirely out of it, but yeah, it's a division that you could kind of leave alone at the moment because so many of the main players are going to come out later in the day.
John, what's your thoughts on the mare's hurdle division?
Yeah. I've actually a very strong opinion on Ash Diamond. I respect Lossiemouth, no doubt about it. She was a very, very dominant triumph winner. Like, there was a valid reason for her getting beaten at Dublin Racing Festival. She was chopped up by the front runner. She probably lost the best part. We were out that day. Probably lost the best part of 10-15 lengths and nearly still got the Gallimar. So it's the only reason she won that day for me. And throughout the season, she's proven that she's simply a better horse. Now, I don't think she is going to close that gap. My worry is, as we've seen many a time, triumph winners going on, they don't have a great record. They don't always progress the way we think they are. It looks set in stone. Goshen, we just expected would go on and probably challenge champion hurdles. It just never developed. But Ashra Diamond, I'm all over. I really love her. I think she's a very, very good horse. We seen last season, Willie didn't mess about. Maiden hurdle, she's thrown in against the Geldens. I think showed what he thought of her straight away. She was then, went to the Royal Bond. She was tipped off. No disgrace being beaten by the Geldens. She went back at Christmas, where, as Calum has touched on, Paddy Mullins gave a brilliant education ride, and she was taught how to settle in aims of going to Cheltenham. She was seen it then at Fairy House. She settled beautifully, and I feel like that's one that got away from us completely. I think for her, I've done a little bit of digging. She's only been ever beaten by Grade 1 Geldens, and I'll list them off for you here now. She's been beaten by Marine Nationale, Irish Point, Faso Vega, Ilate Tom, and she beat Champ Coyley in the Royal Bond. you're talking really top class grade 1 gelding novices there. If she can bring that form into the mares, I think she's going to have a really strong stance. I think if you're the backer, I'd back them now. I think because she's going to be the first one now. And simply the way the bookies go nowadays, I wouldn't be surprised if she's 3-1 after winning the first day. So I think she's one to get on side of now, as the other two are going to be out later, maybe at Christmas. So Ashrow Diamond, I think, is going to have a big part to say. I think she's going to have a right challenge to Lossiemouth, and I'd have her ahead of Garda So I think she's that gap between and potentially going on past Lossiemouth.
Ash, is there anything outside the Willie Mullins 3 that you like the look of?
Yeah, I think everyone's pretty much summed it up really well there. Gala Marceau was a horse that I spoke about. I did sort of 3 horses for next season piece at the end of the jump season last year. I think it was Midnight River, Gala Marceau, and I can't even remember the third one now. I'd probably not even run or not even around. But I think Gala Marceau at that time was 25-1 for the mares. And you're thinking that's an interesting price. Goes and wins in France when Zat the Brave was given not the best ride in the world, and now she's 9-1. Is there any juice in that 9-1 price? I'd say probably not. I think that's as skinny as you'd like to be seeing at some point, when we're months and months away from the race. But I thought Ashrow Diamond, like Sean said there, classy horse. The way she won at Fairy House last time out was just incredible. The second, what could have been, has run a storm, and she's got good form as well. She ran in behind some decent horses last season, but then it's 17 lengths back to Pink in the Park back in Furs. It was a fairly stunning performance that day from Ashrow Diamond. I thought there was an interesting price of 25s. Not that I'd be going and backing, but it's potentially a horse to follow in the division and see how she gets campaigned. But Under Control for Nicky Henderson is a horse that I've had on my agenda for a little while. He gave a weirdly big talking up to this horse in his pre-festival media day at Seven Barrows and said, this is a horse that I really like the look of. She's out of a young mare and she's got plenty of scope to improve. And they ran her in the Mare's Novice, but he did caveat that when he said it and said, look, she's only ran the other day. She ran her first run last season was March 3rd, and then she went into the Mare's Novice, and it just looked the break or the lack of break just showed. She finished nearly last and couldn't really be found. But then she's gone on one next time out in a nice handicap for mares at Cheltenham, and then she's gone really one nicely at Sandown again. She's a 4-year-old. She's got so much time on her side, and she can just progress really nicely. Look, on numbers and on form, there's a bit to grasp at. But then even in a Cheltenham victory 2 starts ago, she had Arclight all the way back behind her, and that horse has come out since and won over fences really nicely. So I think there's a bit of interest about Under Control this season. She's quite a young mare coming into it, and I think she could be a bit interesting. But towards that top of the market, Lossiemouth you have to fully respect. But Ashrow Diamond, if you ask me now, I'd probably say Ashrow Diamond's the one for me. Is a horse that I'm quite excited to see this season. She looks very, very classy.
Over a quick minute on the Mares Chase kind of division, has anybody got an argument for me that Dino Blue at 7-1 isn't a steal? With the news of Impervious today, anybody got an argument for that?
I'm still heartbroken from Cheltenham. I thought it was onto a right springer there, and she turns out she's 15 pounds better at the end of the season, and I just felt like getting sick again. Listen, she's a bit of a Fruit Loop. She is starting to get it together. The distance might be the only worry if she was to get keen like that again at Cheltenham. Like, she rocket launched herself at the last 2. Like, how she even managed to stand up, I'll never be on that. I'm gone cold on Allegory the Vassy. Whatever's happened to her, I've gone really, really cold.
I went right off her after that good jumping performance before Cheltenham. I thought
it looked like serious wind issues to me. She just, like, I thought jumping at Ash she was going to go away and win, and that's what we've seen. But Impervious came back up on her. It's been sprung wide open now, and as I said to you before the show, I find it interesting that Zenta's going chasing. I wonder, they've obviously known Impervious is out, and he's looked for another angle in. Dino Blue there as well. I wonder if Zenta, she was a big juvenile last season. Them juveniles, they tend to get a trip. I wouldn't be surprised if she cuts out and takes the fence and is a good sort of animal.
So we'll go on to the kind of novice chases division. I'll give everybody a kind of minute or so just to kind of give their thoughts in the 3 divisions. We've got the likes of Arco. We could see Marine Nationale and Facile Vega again against each other. Turners, you've got the likes in the pocket. Could be a star for Henry de Bromhead. Stay in division. There could be a lot in both the Brown Advisory and National Hunt Chase. Calum, we'll start with you. What's your kind of novice chase thoughts going into this season?
I think the 3 mile division is excellent. I think there's so much depth to this. Gaelic Warrior now going there, making the market. Factifile will go here. Sander Clegane, Corbett's Cross go here. Stay Away Faye, Maximilian, Giovinco, Flooring Porter, Hermes Allen potentially, Nick Rocket. I mean, Aroko as well is the one that I quite like. I mean, Martin Pike winners have got a good recent trend of making really good kind of sustained chasers. No, Banbridge wasn't quite that distance, but Aroko seems every stamp a 3-miler. Ominously well backed for Martin Pike, which is normally a good sign of a very, very good horse that's been kind of put away, and he kind of backed that up in third in the Sefton. I think 25-1 poke for him on the 3-mile will be interesting. Looks like Facile Vega and Marine Nationale might clash in the Arkle. I think there's about 61 kicking about. Facile Vega, it's been trimmed into 4s. They've kind of tightened up a little bit, and I can see that. I can see why. I think there won't be much to choose with them. I think they'll have to kind of learn the job there. I wouldn't be kind of picking a horse in that fight at the moment. Facile Vega could also go up to the Turners, but I think in the pocket there's probably the sound one to go for there. 10's just about enough juice each way, and if you think it could cut up badly 4 or 5 runners, and he's taking on Facile Vega and he's second favourite about 5-2, 3-1 or something, or there's going to be kind of a bunch and he's going to be the best of them, and he's going to be 341. So I think any kind of scenario there, you'd get a better price, because I think he's bound to be campaigned as a 2.5 mile. So that would be my kind of early thoughts on it.
Ash, what about yourself? Novice chasers, where are we at?
Yeah, like it's difficult. I suppose the Arkle is tough in the fact that you see year on year it's these favourites who've come from the Supreme background. They're well found in the market for months in advance, and they go and oblige. I suppose Marine Nationale's different in the way that he sort of came onto the scene last year. He came from that route of winning a nice maiden hurdle really quite early on, was well found, put away for a little bit, then he's come back and he's won really nicely. You have to fully respect him. He looks like a very good horse, and as much as many people on Twitter love him, and sometimes it's nice to see a Twitter horse potentially lose. Sometimes it is good to see him as a decent horse. The Arkle I didn't really have too much an opinion on. Maybe Mr. Policeman is a horse obviously that's being spoke about quite a lot, but 8-1 about that. My word, like that is short for a horse who's just been seen the once over obstacles, and look, he beat some nice horses and Cashback and Fielded Dairy, which is good form for your first run over hurdles for Mullins, but 8-1's short enough if you'd be backing at this stage. The Turners and then the Browns was an interesting one for me, more so than the Arkle. Hartwood's a horse who I like quite a lot for Henry de Bromhead. Just had the one run last season when second to Hollow Games in a beginner's chase and finished second. Jumped the last, got over it, and then stayed on really nicely at the line. Hasn't been seen since. Had a couple of issues, but you listen to connections close into Hartwood of Rob Core, and they seem to think this horse is going to, they'd be disappointed if he's not at least a Grade 2 horse. And look, is he going to be winning Grade 1s? They wouldn't be able to tell you. You can't label that on a horse at the start of the season, but they said they'd be really disappointed if he's not going to be at least a decent Grade 2 horse, which would suggest to me that they've got a fair animal there. What distance-wise would he run best at? I think maybe this year he might look a sort of 2.5 mile campaign for Hartwood. He's still young, got plenty of time on his side, so I'd like to see him in the division. I also thought an interesting one was Monbeg Park. Won a 2-mile novice hurdle at Punchestown was the victory last season, and just some of the form running into was fairly decent last season. On debut finished second to Affordale Fury, then on only start of 3 miles finished third to Hidden Valley Lake, and Cool Survival was in second. That horse has come out since and franked the form of Calixtos quite nicely. Then was second in a 2 handicap hurdle. Was actually first past the post at Fairy House in April, but the placings were reversed with Willie Mullins' horse. And I thought the way he won his novice hurdle over 2 miles at Punchestown was really interesting. Looking at an article that was wrote at the start of January, connections were saying that this horse was a horse that Willie Mullins had on his agenda potentially to buy. We had a couple of suspensory issues, so decided not to in the end. But he's a type that Willie Mullins would like to have, but he's still not with him. So I'd be interested by how Monbeg Park goes this year. And in the Browns, look, Gaelic Warrior is a horse that I love quite a lot, and he must be showing something at home for them to be sending him over fences when they've got Factor File, who is a horse that Willie Mullins seems to really, really love. And just reading today, looks like a ready-made 3-mile chase that's going to be right up there in the Grade 1s this season. So it looks like Willie Mullins got a fantastic hand in the Gaelic Warrior. In fact, I'm not going to be the first person to tell you that, and I certainly won't be the last. But the main ones for me would be the Turners and the fact that Hartwood and if Monbeg Park doesn't turn out to be a Grade 1 horse in time, I think he's got the ability to pick up a really nice handicap at some point. So I do quietly think he's a decent horse, but I'm just excited to see how these novice chasers go this season.
Yeah, absolutely. Sean, what's your thoughts on the novice chasers?
Yeah, I cannot wait. I think the novice chasers, when you have a good one like Constitution Hill around and a good one like Galloping, sort of scare. Oh no, sorry, not Constitution Hill, and
you have him on your brain. You must sleep and dream about him, do you?
Yeah, sorry about that. When you have someone like Constitution Hill, they tend to go novice chasing, they're skipping, going into open hurdles, and it makes these divisions very, very strong in here. Like, I think the Arkle's a very, very good race. I'm a massive Facile Vega fan. I think it's all been, for me, it's been about chasing since day one. I think they always thought he was going to come and develop, and this is where he's going to make his name. He had no respect really for the hurdle at all. And if fences put manners on him and he goes attacks, I think he's going to make up them couple of lengths that was between him and Marine National. He didn't get the cleanest run at Cheltenham, and I think that killed him. I think that got the better of him. They had to give him a break after the Dublin Racing Festival. They got a clean run at Punchestown, and we see him Facile Vega back there where he posted his RPR at 158, the same as Marine National Supreme. The underdog, Mr. Policeman, he has been slashed from the 20s that he was. I think he brings really good depth into this. He could be a super sub for Willie Mullins if anything was to go wrong here.
Can I ask you something now? This boggles my mind now, this Mr. Policeman. How in the name of God is that bringing good depth in it? He's ran once over hurdles against pensioners. And
I just think
8-1 for an Arkle.
I think
on the basis of a run around Cork.
Yeah, running in against the open horse has done it for me now. He absolutely stamped all over them. He done it with plenty left under the bonnet for me now. He had plenty left. He went in against hardened handicappers there, and I'd rather see them in against open company rather than novices. You know where that line of form sits, and I think he brings a solid. It's only been his third run of his career. His first one under Willie's. By the sounds of it, Willie was pretty disappointed that he didn't go and win by more. So I expect more to see out of him. I have an unpopular opinion when it comes to the turners. I wouldn't be half surprised if we seen Gaelic Warrior rock up here at all. You seen him with Galloping the Champ. Willie up to 3 miles at Punchestown over hurdles. Everyone thought it was nailed on that he went the RSA.
I think it's very underrated how many horses struggle after winning that Brown Advisory.
I just about to touch on that there now. Like, Willie was aware and brought this lad back down to 2.5, and everyone thought it was just set in stone. He was going to go to 3 mile. You look through, like, you have Monkfish, Lahan Presse, top of the game. All these horses in recent years presenting Percy, like, he looked like he had the world at his feet, winning an RSA by as much as he wanted. It's breaking horses. It's asking an awful lot at the novice level, and they're just not finding the four after. I wouldn't be completely surprised if he was stepped down to a Browns, and he's in around the 14, 16 to 1. I wouldn't put anyone off at all back in it. It's Willie Mullins. Anything. Are we even going to know 2 days before? And the RSA, a bit after time glowing here. Now, we done our first anti-post back in the summer, and I took a chance on Fact to Foil. He was 33 to 1 for the Brown Advisory. I thought he was ready-made for chasing. He's a big lad. He's 7 going 8. I thought there was a big chance he was going to skip hurdling with him. And Willie Mullins has come out and said they are. He's big, he's scopy, he's won a point to point, he's gone over fences. I think he's tailor-made, he's hardy, he's rock solid. And as you said, this is nearly his prime. He's 7 going 8. This is, I think, a Brown Advisory, he'd be ready for something like that. And I think he's going to take a big aim at that race.
Andrew, going by the sounds of your reaction there, I don't think Mr. Policeman's in your anti-post list for the Arkle.
As of now, no. I can't see how you can fathom backing a horse at 8 to 1 that's won a hurdle race around. It's not even that fact it was around Cork, beating Cashback and Phil Dodari, who have seen better days. I'm boggled by the price, and that just goes to show anti-post prices right there and then. Would you rather take a 3 to 1, 7 to 2 on a Marine National who's proven that he can do it in grade ones, can do it at Cheltenham Festival, acts around Cheltenham, or an 8 to 1 on a horse that's won around Cork and hasn't seen Cheltenham, hasn't been to a big day, hasn't been to the hurly-burly or anything like that? You want to be off your rocker.
Yeah, the juice is gone now, to be honest. Like, the juice was there at 20 if you wanted to have a shot, but you're down to 8 to 1 now. You're talking skinny prices.
And it's literally based on people went to Willie Mullins' stable and he's standing on a gallop. All of Willie Mullins' horse have been slashed in the last week because they went into the yard and they go, oh, look, he has 4 legs, a tail, and a head, and he's walking. Fantastic. Let's grab. That's
And
short.
also 8-1. That is short for. And you, like we talk about Cheltenham, and look, everyone loves an anti-post bet, but Cheltenham is happening tomorrow as we record, and Cheltenham's happening on Saturday. You could go and find an 8-1, a 10-1, a 12-1, a 14-1 shot that you know so much more about, that you could have a stronger opinion on, and you know everything about the race. You know the conditions. You know who's turning up. You know what your place terms are. You know what your price is, and go and do that. You know you'd be so much better off for doing that than going back in 8-1 about these horses. You know.
Yeah, I'm gonna I'll just be devil's advocate here. Like the first level he ran to, his RPR was 150. Like you're talking Marine National 158 in the Supreme and Fassive
ran around Cork, Sean.
But you have what I'm saying is
that's some fella sitting in an office throwing a number in front of him. I like him. I'm going to put him 155 because I think he's 155. He finally to this day he's done nothing. He has done zero to be an 8-1 shot in an Arkle until he goes and runs in a great race and shows he can actually do it over a fence. Like Willie Mullins has literally come out and say we have to send him chasing, but if it doesn't work out, we'll bring him back over hurdles. What does that tell you? He schools all right. And if it doesn't work out, we'll drop him back down over hurdles. Like I boggles my mind. Like this is a Twitter horse that's just taken off. I say every Tom, Dick, and Harry on Twitter.
Do you think it's these silks behind you as well that kind of play a part in that? Because I remember back in the day when the likes of kind of Min and kind of Get a Bird being the famous one as well. When we saw the colours going for a Supreme, you would be backing them just because of the connections. Is it that?
Yeah, but
I don't know, lads. I'm
in there like with a big mad reputation. You didn't hear of him or anything about him. Like this Mr. Policeman's coming out in Cork now. Watch this thing. It was like
it was how it was as well. Like he was sent off even money. Like the lads knew what he was. They knew what he was. There's no doubt about that. It was his third.
Yeah, because they know that he has to beat in the cashback. Who's like 20.
Yeah. I'd act devil's advocate. I don't know if listen, there's a gap there between them. He has to go and prove. There's no doubt about that.
Like let's put it this way. If the Arkle was Saturday and you have 8-1 on Mr. Policeman and you have 7-2 on Marine National, who are you backing?
Don't like Marine National,
exactly.
So I'm going Policeman.
Yeah, you're an absolute bottler and a bullshitter. You're backing Marine National every day of the week.
On the point of prices, I just think it's punters, isn't it? I mean, the Supreme and the Arkle, the first two races of the whole meeting, a lot of punters go through that post races and just stay in those two races. I mean, if you look like the interest here, Facile Vega in the pocket is the tunnels. It's 6-10-1 there.
Like, yeah, to me,
5-2, 4-1, 8-1 debate about the Arkle. I mean, the tunnels is kind of a similar kind of. There's no British Challenge. The Arkle, there's no British Challenge. There's only 3 or 4 horses to it, but you're actually getting okay prices in the tunnels because it's not the Tuesday and it's not the Arkle.
Like, to me,
you rather have the kind of fancy ticket on. I get the Arkle winner from Yonks out and stuff like that. There's a bit more prestige in that rather than the tunnels. I think that's why it's treated slightly differently. Same with the Supreme coming Ballymore.
You're mentioning there about the British Challenge, right? Let's have a look at who we think could be potential British horses this year. You could have Timurus.
Is there any?
Lucia.
No.
There is literally nothing.
It
could be a grim division. It was a grim division last year with the exception of John Bond. It's worse than that this year, just looking at the betting.
Like, just touch on the Arkle quickly there. Like, a lot of people are saying I'd have In the Pocket returns. To me, In the Pocket is an Arkle horse. Like, Henry de Bromhead farms these horses, and he's a 2-mile winner over hurdles. You're going to see the best over fences. The Arkles are run. Majority of them are run like the clappers, like they go off in front like Scalded Cats. This fella has a bit of extra stamina up the sleeve. I think he'll be banged there in an Arkle. Marine National's a flat bet horse. All right, he's going over hurdles, you get away with it and whatnot. It'd be interesting to see how he jumps a fence. Hurdles you wouldn't worry too much about because you get the A to B. It takes a lot more know-how to do it. But I don't want to say I'm worried. I just want to see him do it first. I don't know what price off the top of my head In the Pocket is. I think he's 12-14-1. To me, yeah, I'll have that. I have Facile Vega every day of the week at Turner's horse. He bred to go further. He'll appreciate going further. Like Vega's mother, she won the Mares and she won the Stairs Hurdle at Punchestown every year. That was her thing. He got done for speed by Marine National. He's every bit of a chaser. He's massive, and I think the further he goes, the better he's going to be. I think 6-1 is a massive price. Look, the owners have a vendetta out against going back and beating Marine Nationale, and they'll probably get it if Barry Collin doesn't bottle.
I think the trainer does as well because of who owns Marine Nationale.
Yeah, I think if Barry Collin doesn't bottle it now, the DRF, that'll be the battle that everyone will literally go to the Dublin Race Festival to see.
Yeah.
It only worries me. That's my worry, that they have so much of a we're going to beat you. Wherever Marine Nationale goes, I think they'll have a target on his back. We're going to beat you. But I think the right race for him is the Turners. Every day of the week I have him as a Turners horse. Just quickly onto the Brown Advisory. For the life of me, I cannot back Gaelic Warrior going over a fence, going left-handed, sorry. I think, like, if you see what he done at the Dublin Race Festival, and when he got a clear daylight, he nearly ended up in the stands. And that is going to be multiplied by 10 for a fence. You think how much you can flick and get away with it as much as you want, bring him onto the inside and get away with it over hurdles. But he has to put in a lot more. You've seen it with Allegor Devassi. When you put under pressure and you ask for the leaps, you veer out, because they have to make up the effort to go across instead of just literally flicking over. They have to make the effort to push up and go across. I think that will be highlighted massively around Cheltenham in the Brown Advisory. I couldn't back him. What is he, 5-1 favour for it or something like that? I couldn't go near him there. Sandor Clegane is one I'm massively interested in. He didn't get the best right in the Albert Bartlett. He bolted up then at Punchestown. If he gets ridden closer to the pace, I think he'll have a very, very good chance. Be it the 4 mile or be it the Brown Advisory, he'd be one I'd be really interested in. I think there must be something at the happening up in Willie Mullins, because a week ago, Richie and his racing manager, Gaelic Warrior staying over hurdles.
Richie was in the races preview telling everybody he's going over hurdles.
It's either somebody's gone missing or somebody's after getting injured. Like Champ Kiley all of a sudden is injured, and then all of a sudden Gaelic Warrior is going over fences. Something's had to happen, and somebody's got injured. Someone's gone missing. Not missing, but
I had a very interesting conversation on that. Like, we were talking about future horses coming through for Willie Mullins. He had no 3 mile novice this year, as in potential for a Gold Cup to Galloping. He had no 3 mile last year. It was looking sketchy this year, and I think he's had to throw 2 bullets and hoping that Gaelic Warrior and Fact of Foil could potentially make that step to the Gold Cup.
Yeah, but he's just fine. Just jumping is a massive worry for me with Gaelic Warrior.
We'll get into novice hurdlers. I'll do the kind of same again. Calum, I want to start with the kind. We obviously are just kind of waiting, and we're kind of know Willie Mullins kind of what he's doing at the moment. 1 minute Ballyburn's going Ballymore, and then 2 minutes later he's a Supreme Horse. So we don't really know what's going on. But the one I want to touch on with you is a dream to share, because he obviously was really good in his bumpers last year. Won the champion bumper really well. Brilliant ride from John Gleeson. We are hearing he's a bit behind in terms of where they kind of want him to be. Is he a horse that can kind of take that kind of flat form up to into hurdles, because he's bred to be a flat horse? Is he a horse that can go over hurdles and do the same?
I think horses will be catching up to them personally over hurdles. I mean, I thought the bumper division was unbelievably bad last year, and I mean, it was just a really good flat horse is won that race. I mean, I'd be more interested in Melbourne Cup than a Supreme with him. Well, I think he should be down with Vauban down under and running there, something like that, if the ground came soft. I think it was a really good flat horse. It beat everything. Willie Mullins, I think, had kind of a lot of kind of very good bumper horses, but didn't really have an outstanding one. And I think he's kind of rather bided his time. And the fact that he's sending them all different places now, the fact to file, he's always going straight over fences. Other ones, earmarked Supreme, Ballymore. He's kind of spent them out. I think he's probably kept his better ones back a little bit. There was ones that just flat to deceive. I mean, Chapeau du Soleil for some reason is completely bombed out. Gordon Elliott and nothing of real significance that emerged either. And Captain Teague was okay for Paul Nicholls, made a decent start in the Persian War. He's probably one that's already been earmarked for that kind of shallow route, and it depends what he's going to do against Irish come spring. The percentage call is he's going to be found out, isn't he? I mean, and Nicky Henderson. I mean, you really are scratching into inner depths of stable tours to find the one from there. There usually is a good 2 mile. There hasn't been one since Shishkin, really. They usually kind of come in bunches. At this moment in time, it looks a bit of a kind of fallow period. So you're kind of banking on him to kind of upset the apple cart a little bit. If it maintains that weakness, in a Dream to Share could probably hold his form fine. It's whether he does jump well. I just think he was just miles better in the flat because of his pedigree, and the level of opposition was a bit poor. I mean, Willie Mullins has got such a stranglehold now, and the whole thing that he can pick and choose. I mean, Ballyburn probably showed him something one day, and then he showed himself maybe a bit more speed than he thought, or then again he's done something, or he's jumped that a bit quicker, or he's put in a bit more condition, and he can. I mean, he probably doesn't know. He's probably just figured out, well, what's my best pecking order is probably going to be. It's probably going to be almost the best anywhere. And if the only thing he's got to figure out is in house, and he doesn't really have to worry about the opposition, a great deal at this point. There's a lot of talking horses, and I'm sure the lads will go through, but it's a novice hurdler at the moment. In October, I'm happy to avoid at the moment.
Ash, what about yourself? Is there any kind of novice hurdlers you're hearing kind of good things about?
Hearing good things about, I suppose, is this Jericho de Repene horse that's in the JP colours, and I think with Nicky Henderson saying that he's going to go straight over hurdles with this horse, and apparently he's the second coming. But you only hear that from further down the grapevine actually goes, and you don't know what's going to really happen here. But it's as soon as IC mentioned it on our Twitter space on the weekend about what price is this horse for any race at Cheltenham, it was 10 to 1 on Sky, instantly went into 6 to 1. He's 20 to 1 priced up for Supreme. That's the horse that's sort of the big talking one that we don't really know much about. So I suppose in that case he's interesting, and it'd be interesting to see how he's on the track. But would you be going back at him having not seen anything? No. A Dream to Share, I have an opinion on Dream to Share, and I think I think he's a really, really good horse. And look, if he didn't have the issues that he's had now, and he's probably going to be coming back in the new year, I'd have him as my clear favourite for the Supreme. People were talking about his sire Muhara and saying that the jumpers he's had haven't been up to scratch, but just look at the actual quality of the horse. There's a reason why these horses were going over jumps. It's because they weren't maybe the best horse at all, really, and there are a couple in there. It's not like you analyse the horses specifically and see that they're bad jumpers, or they jump out to their right, or they don't raise a leg or anything. It's just because the quality of the horse that's actually right there isn't amazing. I think A Dream to Share was just quite incredible last season. The way he won at Cheltenham, even if you go back and look at his previous runs earlier in the season, there's the day that he was sent off 9 to 2 on. He looked like he was about to lose it, and at a 2 furlong pole, the penny just dropped, and he went down the outside. Simply incredible. I urge everyone to go watch that, because that was what I cottoned on to ahead of the DRF, that we've got a really good horse here. In the novice hurdling divisions, there's not really much. The one horse that I'm interested to see how he goes is Johnny Who for John Joe Neal. Nice winner in his bumper debut, but took a bit of time to come to hand. Speaking to Johns Jr., just saying that he was a little bit slow to come to hand at home, and then when they thought they had him right, there's a small setback. They had him right again, small setback, and they had him out sort of back end of the season. But he's a horse that beat Hermes Allen his point to point by God knows how long. And again, Johns Jr. said that previous connections, and they don't like to try their horses too thoroughly in point to point. So they like to make sure they come along slowly. So that was probably the reason why he beat Hermes Allen by such a distance. But he has the form there. He won his bumper by however long you'd like, really. He was really, really impressive. I'd see him more as a stayer than a speed horse. He showed plenty of character in deplorable conditions when he won over hurdles. So I could see him as a Ballymore or even a Bartlett type in time, because he's got that form for his point to point over 3. And yeah, Johnny Who's really the only one I'm that interested in at this stage, because you don't know how 80% of these horses jump a hurdle yet. So we'll have a look around that time when it comes, really.
John, what you hearing in the kind of grapevine about novice hurdlers, and who's the kind of ones that are exciting you?
There's one coming on a mission that's gone since running a bumper against Faso Vega at Punchestown. I think Redemption Days, he was a really, really quick horse in his bumpers days. He'd be a Supreme type for me. Now we have to come back and see if he still holds his ability over hurdles after the injury, but he'd be one now at a big price I'd want to be looking at. I think Ollie Murphy's in the Var Blue. I think he could do well on the English side. I don't know about come Cheltenham when he meets the Irish horses, but I think he could do quite well. I was really impressed with his bumper. They didn't think he was the finished article, and what he done that day, he sort of blew them away. So I'm interested to see what comes out about him. I think Ballybourne would be my Ballymore candidate. I think he's Willie's number one from last season. I think probably his biggest regret was not running them against a Dream to Share in that grade one bumper at Punchestown and going for the winner's bumper instead. I think the gap might be closed in them bumpers with Dream to Share. I think I heard an interesting thing that Dream to Share was in training since 2 for flat, probably more advanced than the rest. And that gap might be closed now with the national one coming on, and Paddy Mullins sounded quite excited at that idea that they might be catching up. But Ballybourne, when you get into the bottom of him, he just keeps giving. I think 2.5 miles is really going to see the best of him. He just hits that gear, and by God, he gets rattling. And for the Bartlett, I wouldn't be shocked if he's seen Tully Hill. I know people are going to look and raise a few eyebrows. I think he's a big galloper. I think last season we seen he got to a Dream to Share, but when push came to shove, he didn't quite have that turn of foot. I wouldn't be surprised if he's pushed out as far as the Ballymore. That's sort of the way I see him. It's maybe the 3 or 4 that I'll be looking forward to this season.
Andrew, what about yourself? What's kind of catching your eye in the novice hurdlers?
Sean touched on one there that I really like, and I put him up last year, probably this time last year, was Redemption Day. 24 hours later, I found out he was out for the season, which was fantastic. But look, his form in his bumpers is good. It's good to see his speak, Andrew. He gave Facile Vega his biggest race in his bumper season, and he just got done for a staying ability. And I think if he holds his ability going over hurdles, he could be a really, really good horse over hurdles. I agree with Ash Dream to Share. I don't see why people. There's a lot of people grabbing Dream to Share. He's 5 from 5 in bumpers. He's won grade ones left, right, and centre. He's beaten horse and he's beaten them convincingly. Look, by Muhara, and as Ash touched on there, he's not been people saying he's not produced X, Y, and Z, but Muhara hasn't produced that in like a Dream to Share. Yeah, he's a flatbred. Like a lot of flatbreds, decent flatbreds have made good hurdlers. Like Hurricane Fly won a list of race on a flat, champion hurdler. Penn Hill, stairs hurdler. Marine National flatbred, Supreme Novice hurdler, winner. I don't think there'll be any problem with him. Look, the fact that we won't see him probably now till after Christmas, it takes the kind of gloss off it. Do you want to take the chance? Do you not want to take the chance? I'd be willing enough to wait and see what they'll do with him. Will they actually rush him back to get him into a Supreme, to get the runs into him, to get him experience, or will they just leave him be? So with that said, the ones in the same colours that I do like is Mercier West, the little brother to Fernie Hollow, baby Fernie, as we like to call him. He's one of Willie's that was just brought out in the end of March up in Naas for a bog standard bumper, went off 1 to 2. He's my hero, Matt and Zoe, who Henry paid a lot of money for at Cheveley Park, and beat him very convincingly, very easily. He could be one that's coming rightly in under the radar. And I seen yesterday that Patrick had a nice word to say about him. They're very excited about him. He looks like a really fast horse. He's a big price for Supreme. I think he's 20 to 1 or something like that. He's one I'm really looking forward to going over hurdles. I have him a Supreme horse every day of the week. Same as Shaw Ballybourne. I think he's nailed on for a Ballymore. What he done in his bumpers, he looked like he's beaten both bumpers until the afterburners were turned on and off he went. I think he's riddled with a lot of ability. He still looks green as grass when he comes off the bridle, but I think he's going to be the Ballymore horse. He's very, very exciting. I think he's still 6-7 to 1. I think first time he comes out, he'll win an all maiden hurdle, and as bookies do, they'll slash him into 3 to 1. If you really fancy him for that, back him now, because he looks like the real deal. But one that has kind of been forgotten about as well is Mystical Power, Annie Powers.
Yeah, Mystical Power.
Mystical Power. He bolted up at Galway, doing a lot wrong, pulling and dragging and not jumping great, and he still went off and won really, really well. And I don't know if he's not that happening or not, but I'm taking it as a good thing that they put him away now and he's going to have a proper winter campaign. If he comes out and improves and shows that he's learning on the job, he's still green as grass. If he comes forward again, he's a massive price as well for Supreme Novice Hurdle. He has the pedigree. He has everything going for him with the right trainer, with the right owners for the Supreme. He's another one that's going to go under the radar. But look, with the rest of it, it's a lot of if, buts, and where they're going to go. But they are 3 that I'm really looking forward to seeing this season.
So before we wrap up and can I close up the show, I'm just going to go around the panel and give everybody a minute or so just to talk about we bumper horses or maybe juveniles are hearing about, or handicap thoughts that they think could be eye catching before we close the show and we'll do one final big prediction. I want to hear a nap for the campaign before we finish up. I'm going to put you in the spot, but Calum, we'll start with you. Any juveniles or bumper horses you're hearing things about?
One at the top of the market, Bunting is the obvious starting point, just mainly because of the Mullins Tony Bloom association. When he gets involved, people take notice immediately. Good French form. He's quite full. He'll be out at Christmas. He's got Salvador Monday as well. A horse like that. One Gordon Elliott didn't have much last year, but when he always tends to earmark a good one for Down Royal. The one he's Cala Conti, about 25s. I mean, if he's earmarking it, his best.
Is that a Jigginstown horse?
Yeah, it is indeed. Yeah, it's a mare as well. It could go that route, but he seemed to be saying juvenile hurdles. Went that route with like Colexios, horses like that. Phil Dorr, horses that set pretty solid markers at the start of the season, that kind of propel their way to kind of the top before Willie Mullins probably invariably these days overtakes them with like 6 or different 8 decent types. But I mean, if you're inclined to look at the market and try and nick a price, and maybe 25s for that, if it wins that race down Royal next week or so, Champion GST, then I think there'll be a bit of interest there. So that might be his kind of main kind of triumph hope. Aside from that, not much. I mean, I think Douglas Talking of Lucinda Russell's is a 2 mile handicap chaser to follow. He's been unlucky at Aintree. Was unlucky when it went bravely crossed the water into Ireland and tried to kind of repeat that front running tactic and only get chinned again. But the Grand Annual's becoming it's been in the new course a little bit. It's now the old course. It tends to kind of favour those that are kind of nearer the pace. I think he's one that could dominate, and he's still young enough, and he's well handicapped enough to kind of make hay. He's a proper spring horse for Lucinda Russell, so I think that's interesting. And Gavin Cromwell horse, Antrim Coast, I think that could be a Martin Pipe horse down the line, potentially. Won that race at Cool Survivor, one who went off favourite last year, just over the weekend there. I wouldn't surprise if Gavin Cromwell kind of tests the water and runs in kind of these hot graded races, and gets quite a few runs in the bank and opts to go for Martin Pipe instead. I'd have an earmark on him.
Brilliant. Sean, what about yourself? What's your eye catching kind of juvenile or bumpers or handicappers?
Yeah, I love having a good dig at these. Now, Calum has touched on at the start of the summer. Now I get a list of these and I have a good old dig through. And I unearthed at Bunting, and he was a smashing price. Now he's 33-1, but he's absolutely plummeted, which means he's doing one thing at Clonsutton, and that's working well, because he collapsed in price. I really liked his debut. He was really good. He went through the line on heavy ground like a train. And the fact that Tony Bloom was bought him, you don't see many Tony Bloom horses disappoint. And Anogamene was coming towards the end. I wonder, has he dipped in the market? I'd say he paid a fair few quid for this fella now, and looked to rejuvenate his chances of having another good horse. Another one I picked out was Anola for the Mares Novices Hurdle. She's coming off the flash. She's a couple of runs on the flash. She's unlucky not to win 2 listed races. She won on her last race where she beat Pennine Hills, who was sold. But that, she was running in form with the name of it, Venus Sistina. There was latching in form of horse. So top quality, grade 1 flat form coming over. I think if she's able to take the hurdle, she'll be running very well. A couple of handicappers I had was Doya Khan of Gary Moore's. This thing bolted up in France, came over and ran our Ascot. It's 1 run off a handicap mark. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't win next time in his maiden and his handicap blotted. Another horse for Willie Mullins, Jit Langy. Willie Mullins waited until May to save his novice. He's one I'd be sort of looking at for a Martin Pipe now. I think he'd be tried at the top level, and I'd be hoping he's in and around Tour de Fort, maybe not quite cutting at the top level and looking towards a Martin Pipe at the end of the season. And a handicap chaser, Spillane Tower for the Mangans. He's looking to start his chase debut at Galway this weekend. I wouldn't be surprised if he makes up into a nice 2.5 mile handicap chaser.
Brilliant. Andrew, what about yourself? What's the ones in the list?
I've won for the triumph, Madgeborough. trained by Willie, owned by JP. If you go back and watch his hurdle win in France, the way he picked up after the last to put the lengths between him and his rivals was very, very good. It reminds you of what Lossiemouth done when she won in France. I know there's a lot of talk about bunting and whatnot, but I'd rather see the horse that's able to jump the hurdles first and take nearly more than double the price than what bunting is right now. I think 20-1 is a fair price there. Look, I went into the handicaps and I was looking at them and going, what's the point putting up something just for the sake of it? Because we can be saying this thing's going to be aimed for that, it's going to be aimed for this, it's going to be. We don't know until close to the time what mark is going to have throughout the season. What is going to run? Will it be a greater horse? Will it be thrown out the back in half these greater races to pick up a handicap mark? But there's one or two in the open, like Mascada, for instance. Mayor's Chase. Well, I know Henry's had to coming out, or not even Henry, the owners are coming out saying we're going to start them off in against the open class geldings, 2 miles, whatnot. I don't think she's near enough good enough to run in them kind of races. Then come Cheltenham, drop back down to Mayor's Chase. She's 25-1 now. When you look at the bet, you've the likes of Limerick Lace is 12-1. Dinah Blue, who she beat convincingly last year, is 10-1. She's 25-1. I think that's a massive price, especially when you take out Impervious. Straight away. Allegor de Vassi. If Allegor de Vassi didn't run after Cheltenham, you'd be saying this thing is an absolute good thing. But she is gone mental. Like, she's getting beat by absolute yaks all of a sudden. She looked like a world beater and then she's just gone. So you'd be taking a leap of faith to go with her. But I think Mascada is a decent price. I'm disappointed Oroco's not run the weekend because I was hoping that he's going to jump like a fridge and they changed their mind to go back over hurdles, because I put him up as the stayers hurdle contender, because I think there's a massive opening in the UK to take all these long walk hurdles, cleave hurdles. There's a standout horse missing in the UK and I thought he could have been it. And one that who I think will end up in handicaps, but they're aiming him already at grade ones, is Gentleman's Game. I have a soft spot for this lad. I think he's a lot of ability, and to have your second chase start in the race at Gorman Park, the whatever they call JLT Champion Chase, where he got beat by Easy Game, who I think he's a very good horse. I think he's a big pot in him. I don't think he's good enough to win the grade one. I know he's going to run down Ryle soon, but I think he'll get beaten these kind of races. He'll go back down to the handicap route in the big races, something like a Tri-Town or something like that. I could see him pop up in, and I think he'd be a massive player. But yeah, there, and Sandor Kilgane, I think he's one horse that is massively underrated, and I think he's going to have a massive season. Done.
Brilliant. Ash, to kind of wrap us up on this, which kind of horses to follow?
Just a couple to mention. Milton Harris, we know is a trainer who loves his juvenile hurdlers. He's picked up 2 who ran in the German Derby this year in Quality Road, and Natchgiet, I'm going to go for. It's on my Twitter page, but pronunciation for French is bad, let alone for German. But he says he likes these 2. He's also got another one, Galactic Jack, who's a 94 rated 3-year-old from Andrew Balding. But he said, when I spoke to him about the juvenile hurdlers, he had a juvenile hurdle winner at Chepstow. I said, how's this one rate against your ones at home? He said, sort of nowhere near really. You know, he's got 2 German Derby horses who look pretty smart this season, so they're interesting. Just very quickly, I think handicap wise, Sail Away for Dan Skelton won a really nice novice handicap chase at the Scottish Grand National meeting last season. Actually had it entered for the Scottish Grand National itself, but decided to go for the novice race. Has a couple of entries about. Coral Gold Cup is one of them, though I do think Midnight River might go for that from the stable, and it looks like he's going to go there, and looks like a nice shout. So it's the other race, the not the Beecher, what's the national fences race over 2.5. Names escape me now.
Preston.
Yes, yeah. That's the one. Has an entry for that one. I reckon they're going to run him in that to get some fences experience over the national fences, and then they're going to look at something like a Beecher over 3 miles around December time. So that will be one for me. Sail Away, I think he's a really interesting horse. And just very quickly, St Davy is a horse who's going to go over fences this season for John Joe O'Neill. Won really nicely at Chepstow at the start of the season, then disappointed in Grade 1 company. But speaking to Johns Jr., they think quite a lot of this horse. Bought for 270 grand at the point-to-point sale. He needs a fence, and he'll have a nice trip as well. So St Davy and the Legislator Lucinda Russell. Speaking with Lucinda and all the connections around there, they sort of think this horse is kind of a Korak Rambler type. Won a nice handicap hurdle. One nice novice hurdle last season. Had to grind it out really, really nicely, and going over fence this season could be quite a smart one to keep on side. Lucinda Russell's going to have a mental year this year, and the Legislator could be one that's a little bit off the radar from her stable. But those are just a couple to mention. But I'm just looking forward to getting properly stuck into it now.
Yeah, absolutely. Before we wrap up, I'm just going to get around the panel and put them in the spot. The viewers want winners. I want a nap for the jump season. It doesn't need to be a Cheltenham race. It's just a horse that you think is going to win a race in this jump season, a big race. Callum, I'll put you in the spot first. I usually do.
Protect that Betfair Chase. Only top race he can win all season, and Dan's got to make sure that he will win it. He'll win it again.
Brilliant. Sean.
Ballybourne and the Ballymore Novice Hurdle.
Jesus, I like it.
Big call.
Jesus, that's not easy hardly yet.
Is it me next? Oh,
Andrew,
sorry,
what's
Andrew.
yours?
Brave Man's Game, King George.
Ash.
Brave Man's Game, King George. There's a winner for you. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was going to go Gallop in the Shops, John Durkin. That was my one. Just going to keep it simple. But it's been a real pleasure, lads. It's been great to do this. It's been a great start to the jump season for our show, and hopefully we can get you back on soon again. First of all, thank you very much to my co-host, Calum McClurkin.
Thank you. Yeah, brilliant. Can't wait to get started. Anything's possible at this stage of the season.
That is absolutely. Sean, Andrew from the finishing line, thank you very much, guys. Where can we find you?
Go on, Sean.
Thanks very much for having us on. I'll let Andrew get the show since he's the boss.
Like that the first time, but you're not getting a pay rise. Go away. Scott, thanks very much for having us on. You can check us on YouTube, Finish Line Podcast, and we're on Twitter and whatnot, spouting nonsense every day.
Yes, brilliant. Been a real pleasure. And to Ash Symonds as well, thank you very much for coming on, mate. It's been a real pleasure.
No, thank you very much for having me on, and check out all the content from all the lads here. It's just the jump season. There's nothing else that's going to get out of bed in the morning. It's fantastic.
It's good. We can't wait for the jump season to start. We'll be back soon for the next episode of Road to Cheltenham, and we'll see you all soon. Cheers.